their citizens should watch out and maybe pack their load and go, or not to come to that country until the crisis passes away before they come down? Who exactly are your friends? So friendship between states, to a very large extent, implies a certain degree of trust as well as, commitment to support one another in times of need. It is true that countries often refer to themselves as friends. They refer to their relationships as very cordial, as very warm, etc. To a very large extent, when some of them even tag the relationship as very special and maybe strategic form of partnership. However, the question is, when there are adversities, like domestic crises, like the security challenges we are currently experiencing, to what extent do these countries really come to your aid? It is no longer news that Nigeria has actually been faced with a lot of domestic challenges. The first set of papers actually alluded to this, both to the presentation on the Sahel, as well as even the last presenter who spoke on, the second presenter who spoke on the domestic challenges to Nigeria's foreign policy, spoke to a very large extent on these challenges. The question is, Nigeria, yes, to a very large extent, plays its actual meaningful role internally in terms of trying to find solutions to its own domestic problems. However, no country on the world can actually solve its own problem on its own. Nigeria do expect from the other countries some form of support and assistance as well. Are they there for Nigeria when Nigeria actually needs them? All the other presenters have actually pointed out that Nigeria has established relations with different countries, with different organizations, both within and beyond Africa. Now, even those organizations, are they there for Nigeria when Nigeria needs them most? The big question, who are our friends? I think to a very large extent, as we proceed in the paper, some of these answers will actually come to the fore. But before we do that, let me make this very clear. The central thesis of this paper is this: that the application and the usage of the term friendship without proper dissecting its content, its context, as well as practical applicability, can be very misleading. I can say everybody in this room is my friend, but sometimes when faced with adversity, can I count on anybody to stand by me? Or is it the usual niceties that you invite everybody to a party and they actually attend, smile at each other? Are they really there for you? We now move to conceptualizing the notion of friendship in international relations. The question we ask here is that, can states be friends similar to the way we think about friendship between individuals? A lot of questions have been thrown up. Scholars have debated this notion, this term, extensively. Somehow they view that friendship is the opposite of conflict. Now, even the core theoretical positions in international relations, the realists, the idealists, have their understanding of what friendship should actually be, what the roles of states should be in international relations. However, no other person than Aristotle provided us with a clear definition of what he thinks friendship should actually connote. And in recent times, we have seen even Nigeria lending support to Russia as well. Recently, even when other countries declared Russia as the aggressor, you find out that Nigeria was among the countries, the 21 African countries that abstained from voting to suspend Russia from the UN Human Rights Council. Of course, the case was different when it actually came to different other issues. We need to ask ourselves, is it China? Our relationship with China covers different areas. The Chinese ambassador here, she actually spoke about that dimension. Yes, China has actually provided a lot of development assistance and in different areas. There is also the willingness of China to also support Nigeria in terms of selling, defense equipment, etc. A lot of records are, we have a lot of records on that. However, again, in times of adversity, during the COVID period, when a lot of people could not fly, could not go anywhere, we saw another face of China. When, to a very large extent, Nigerians and other Africans were being thrown out of their houses and they could not go anywhere. It almost resulted in the diplomatic row between Nigeria and China. Is China the strategic friend for Nigeria? Our immediate neighbors, are they the true friends? Are they our best friends? This is another question we need to ask ourselves. Our relationship with them has been less than cordial. The hand of France in everything they do, tells us a lot. It took the intervention of France for there to be a summit on the Sahel region in Rome. So these are questions that actually beg for answers. Why are they even there in the first place? What is the interest in the particular region? The presentation by Professor Dubajo concerning the Sahel, the issue of oil in the Lake Chad Basin has been actually, we play around it, but nobody wants to hit the nail on the head. Chinese are already tapping part of the oil. And mind you, anything you are tapping is just like borehole water. They said you borehole here, you borehole here. The person who is tapping the water should actually, the first person tapping the water is already draining the other area. And so you don't expect the level of the oil to actually remain the same. So there are a lot of interests there. Our relationship with ECOWAS as well as African Union members. Yes, Nigeria has actually played meaningful roles in different facets in the African Union as well as in the ECOWAS. Does that endear us and make us loved among these countries? I think we can answer that question to a very large extent. There's this envy, there's always this fear, perception that Nigeria is domineering to a very large extent. I think this is actually a point that the Tinubu administration needs to take. Are there prospects of good relationship in terms of friendship? Yes, there are. Literature has shown that where countries actually work together, they could actually achieve good benefits. Literature points us to the working relationship between Thabo Mbeki and Obasanjo, which led to the development of the new partnership for African development. Despite the challenges we have with South Africa, but that partnership actually yielded results. So it means that where such friendships are developed, it can, between political leaders, it can yield benefits for the countries. The opposite can also be the case. Where those close relationships that were there before collapses, it can also affect the countries. In conclusion, we sought answers to the question, who are our friends? In the context of the contemporary security challenges we are facing, is it the old partners or the traditional partners or the emerging powers? I think this is a big question for all of us to answer. Again, I return to the statement by Professor Adefrie. A friend indeed is a friend. A friend in need is a friend indeed. The two types of friendship is in times of adversity. So there is need for the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to pay very careful attention to the various ways he will create close bonds and how he works across boundaries with different countries towards addressing the domestic challenges in Nigeria. This point cannot be overemphasized. And attention.
Identity and language, they're very interesting. And my initial statement about the visit to the governor in Akwa Ibom State is just to illustrate the ambiguity of language. I remember when I was reappointed a member of the National Electoral Commission in 1992. All the papers in the East Times had the election edu. So when I made that point, it is not to be kind of, just to say, but it's simply that language is interesting in terms of how you hear it, how it sounds, and that kind. It's not meant to say some are better than the others, or some are strangers or are not strangers. It's simply that. So, and my friends today, only another say, still add the election they do, and I said yes. But anyway. So we have His Excellency Adiremi Ajibewa online now, and it's my pleasure to invite him. He's a very good friend, and he's a seasoned diplomat also. So, Remy, let me just make a few comments that I've written down in terms of, I'm not going to comment on any of the papers, but I just want to make some, some observations regarding how we do these things. I think it's usually more effective if we don't have a main presenter and we have a series of speakers. I think it's important, and I think that was what Professor Otunbambi tried to speak to. Just lay down just the main points you want to make. We can never be settled. You know, and when we are in the social sciences, we deal with what are called contested concepts. So we are not just going to resolve those between ourselves. What does this mean? Just this is the way.
And let me also recognize the DG of these vital institutions that has played very, very important role in shaping Nigerian foreign policy.
I wish to identify you, just please identify.
Okay. My name is Gani Lawal. I'm an ambassador and the chairman of the Nigerian Foreign Policy Practitioners Association of Nigeria. My observation is by way of when you are holding a meeting, somebody say point of correction. First, the Nigerian foreign policy, to we researchers, there's no question about it. We are all agreeable. We are on the same page. But when it comes to practitioners and in dealing with politicians, you will find that it's a different ball altogether. During the electioneering period here, our association organized a conference of political parties to come and meet the diplomatic world instead of going to Chatham House. None of them showed up. Just like you said earlier, that all what you are saying is Tureshi because that does not give them any vote. But the fact remains that they need to be grounded in the principles and practice of foreign policy. Somebody said it's because of the naivety of the practitioners of Nigerian foreign policy that was responsible for saying that the centerpiece of Nigerian policy is Africa. That is not totally true. The foreign policy of Nigeria was actually enunciated on October 7, 1960 by our first Prime Minister. And since then, what we have are variants of what the Prime Minister said that he enunciated about the 11 points, which has now been reduced to the 4 concentric circles. You know, thanks to Professor Gambari and the NIE itself. You know, and that will continue to be the guiding principle. So this idea of let's go it alone, it doesn't work. Nigeria is in Africa. Whatever Nigeria is doing is in Africa. Therefore, Nigeria must take into consideration Africa in whatever we want to do. Last month, we were in Uyo to discuss about reframing the Nigerian foreign policy in ECOWAS. After we have said all and done, we all forgot that Nigeria is surrounded by France. In that case, whatever Nigeria wants to do in ECOWAS, you must factor into it what is the feeling in Paris. And as such, I advocated that the Nigerian permanent representative in ECOWAS must work in tandem with Nigerian ambassador in Paris. They must exchange notes every now and then, because it's only when you know what the feeling is in Paris that we can actually successfully prosecute whatever we want to do in Africa. Now, let me go to the issue of xenophobia, which Prof spoke about. In my discussion with Shiva Ayaku, we discovered that the Nigerian story in relation to apartheid was not adequately told, both in Nigeria and in South Africa. A lot of people, actors now on the stage in South Africa do not know what Nigeria did. We remember that we also contributed our salary because we wanted we wanted South Africa to be free. So that is one thing we must go back again to do by directing our research, into telling the story of Nigeria in such a way that it will be clearer to everyone what Nigeria did. Then the second one, xenophobia is a general problem. It's not directed against Nigeria alone. It was explained that people who have been under domination of other superior power for a very long time will definitely resist the new leader coming to take over from where the old leader had gone. So this is what the South Africans are resisting. That okay, the white men, they have left, so you are now coming to take over again. We are not going to serve them and serve you again. So it's not against Nigeria alone. It's also against people even from South Africa. So that is what they are resisting. And as such, one of the recommendations made then was that Nigerians are always too loud wherever we find ourselves. That we should always moderate, our activities wherever we find ourselves. So, and when it comes to recommending positions to politicians, I want to suggest that we should do less of academic input. We should come to their level so that they can understand what we are saying. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for that speech. I think you asked a question, because Nigeria are friends, or who are our friends? I come to realize, based on what I've learned so far, that in the international affairs, in the international system, there is no friendship, there is no permanent friend, permanent enemy. Everybody is just pursuing their own national interests. And Nigeria, for one, has no friends. US mentioned that China was a strategic partner, but that was since 1972, displacing Taiwan to an extent to the side. But what was much later in 2017, they declared the same strategic partner became a strategic competitor, which shows that US was just in the office to achieve certain ends. China rather was in the office to achieve certain ends, and when they were done with that, they displaced them. Today now they are fighting, they are confronting each other. Russia built the last building for Nigeria. Until today, it is not functional. These were people that are our friends, but along the line, they are not there for us. Quite a number of countries, even France, I don't know if I'm correct, but more than anything else, I really wish and expected that people from the presidency will be here today to listen to the presentation being made. Because this is the only place, as far as I'm concerned, that can chart a course, a direction for Nigeria. And it is from this kind of presentation that we can have a robust engagement that will chart a way forward for us. Nigeria really has lots of things to do. I, for one, at some point, I faulted Afrocentrism. Africa has a lot of Nigerian foreign policy. But later I had a rethink, and I've come to understand that Africa being the center of Nigerian foreign policy is not a challenge we have. Indeed, nothing else can be better than that kind of policy statement. Africa must be the centerpiece of Nigeria's foreign policy. But how do we go about achieving that goal? We first need to sit down and have a direction for Nigeria. China sat down and planned themselves out. Today they can rival America. And that is a fear America is having, why they call them strategic competitors today. Because projection has been on that by 2028, given even the tempo at which China was accelerating, a time will come when they will displace America economically. And if this happens, they will also go to the level of the military aspects, and before you know it, US will be exited from the scene. America would never want that to happen, and that's why they became enemies today. COVID-19, China was indicted by many reports. Of course, that is gone now. That is by the way. But what I'm trying to explain here is that Nigeria needs to sit down. Let's have a projection. Let's be forward-looking. It is not just today. We must not just define our foreign policy just about today's events alone. What is happening in Africa, in Nigeria alone today. Let us project forward. What do we want for Nigeria in the next 5 years, 10 years? How do we achieve these goals? Thank you very much, sir. I will do that in a minute. My own take is that Nigeria needs to plan themselves out. Let's engage these robust minds we have today. We should not be deterred by who comes to power and who doesn't. If Nigeria is able to establish an institution that is independent on its own, that can give direction to policy makers, I think we will have the whole of Africa at our beck and call. Not in the level of an asymmetric relationship, but symmetric relationship where everyone will grow together and nobody will begin to take us like how do I call it, praise on which to be on. Thank you very much.
2 months ago, I was the executive secretary of the Gulf of Guinea Commission. I ended my tenure in April 2023 after 16 years at the Commission. You mentioned that I was in Addis Ababa. Yes, I was in Addis Ababa as a charge prefect. I was not the ambassador there. I have to do that right. I have listened attentively to all the people that said, and each presenter had something to add. Because as a practitioner, both at headquarters and in the field, what I have come to realize is that really, and as we all know, most of us in international relations, your foreign policy is as dynamic as your domestic policy. If you cannot look after your citizens the way they should be looked after, you cannot be a big man outside. Nobody will take you seriously. At that time, when we were able to do a lot of things in Southern Africa, it was because we were strong. They respected us. I was in England when they introduced the visa. Before then, any Nigerian can take. If I used to tease them when we went to meet people arriving on Nigeria Airways or even British Airways. At that time, they still had British Caledonia. When they arrived, they just take their bag and they land in London. They didn't have to take visa. I happened to be working in the High Commission in London when they called us to say they were going to impose visa on Nigeria. And why? I think after SAP, things became a bit difficult, and when the British realized that they had to look after all those British workers, all those Nigerians who are parading themselves as British citizens, but were actually just bringing money from Nigeria and spending it. They didn't mind. The day they started coming to claim the advantages or whatever, I don't know what to call it, the rights and privileges of British citizens, they started questioning how genuine a citizen are you. The crux of what I'm trying to say is that, look, we can only be strong when we have a strong economy, when our people are doing well, when we are not a liability to anyone. The Americans know the Chinese are coming, and they are more or less imposing everything on everybody. We are tolerating them because they are stronger than we are. If they are also that strong, even within our sphere of influence in Africa, they will respect us. But when you go there and you are not respected, you cannot influence anything. And that's just the bottom line. As far as friendship is concerned, in the diplomatic circle they said you have permanent interests and not permanent friends. Somebody is your friend today because of what they can take from you, because of the advantages. If you allow them to be smarter than yourself and to take everything, that is your problem. You should also protect your own interests and know that in whatever agreement or deals or economic cooperation you have with anybody, you protect your interests of your country, the interest of your citizens, not necessarily your personal interests. But that's also what is wrong with Africa. They protect their personal interests, houses in Côte d'Azur and the rest of it, at the expense of their countries. And that is why these people, they are so used to having their way with our leaders. I don't want to say they are all like that, but mostly. That's why they feel the Nigerian administration, I don't know exactly how it was phrased, I want to be properly quoted. Way forward, Nigeria's foreign policy, other president. The first person to talk, I don't know which of them, said during the campaign, there was no clear-cut foreign policy for discussion. Ambassador Kami had just said that they invited people, they didn't come. They all went to Chatham House, so they are going to do. What is the foreign policy of the APC? We don't know it. So what are you presenting, what are you preparing? When I heard that President Bola Tinubu has been appointed, elected, or I don't know, elected, chairman of ECOWAS, I thought, what is he going to implement? After becoming, he doesn't know how the foreign minister yet. Is it after appointment that you now start to craft what is going to implement as chairman of ECOWAS, or what is going to implement what has been prepared by people he doesn't even know anything about? I mean, these are issues. To get things right, do things at the proper time. Make use of people who have an idea, and let our politicians or those in charge really learn to appreciate the knowledge they have in their citizens and listen. The fact that I'm not in your party and I happen to be in this field doesn't mean that I don't have your interest to succeed. You must be able to decide or to choose people who really have the interest of their country at heart. Not necessarily you did for 1 year or 2 years or 3 years and then everything went back. We have seen it happen before, and we can't not continue like this. That's why everywhere you go, even Dubai now, you have to get passport. Even Togo very soon will say you can't come in, even though ECOWAS is supposed to have every moment of people. No, these are issues really that at the level of the institute, since that's also their core mandate, they must see it the way it is. In foreign affairs, we try them. We'll also tell them they should also try and not just dance to the gallery because they want others to hear this and they will just be saying, okay, whatever. They should be able to, you don't say it and die there. And if you leave, and so what? It's not the end of the world. So those are my views about what we're doing. If you have any influence, let them know what is their policy. And you can then critique it, advise. But when you don't even know what they want to achieve, and they're not listening to you, so what are you going to do? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Not only population was shaping foreign policy, and the all of us have to speak if and when a shifting over. That's the bottom line. I think we should take that. I like what the young man said. I mean, I've forgotten about it. I think but this is what we've been saying all along. The problem is what is to be done. The problem is what is to be done, and it seems to us that that is the real sticking point in terms of what we need to do. And I think we have to have a way of re-engaging our politicians, our political class, and telling them that, look, enough is enough. We need to move ahead, and we can find a way to do that. And I think once they see that that is happening, they themselves will retrace their steps and listen to us. But we've more or less emptied the role, I mean the space for them. That is why they are doing what they are doing. And I think that's why I'm saying that maybe we should go back to that period in the NIA where you had this high-powered national conference where you talk to people. It's as if now that we don't matter. You know, they go on television governors who have sworn to uphold the Constitution, to unite us, they preach hate on television. And people give them space. And we don't take them up that what you are saying is wrong. I mean, we saw it plainly in the last election. And it is in the sense that the political party system is in complete disarray. It's as if now it's the people who have money who can say they are galvanizing from one place to the other. And that also has implications in terms of policy. Because if there is policy, that there is ideological focus on it, and that's why I say chapter 2 is that focus. But nobody is talking about that. What they are simply saying is this whole level of transactional policy. I'm in this party today, I'm in that party tomorrow. I oppose this man, he has come in, I start going to beg him. I say, if somebody becomes president, I'm going to leave the country, he becomes president, and we are making approaches to. I mean, so those are the kinds of things that I think we need another voice. And I think that voice can be provided by the NIA, working through intellectuals, retired but still very active ambassadors who have, fantastic knowledge. I would like to see provision here for an in-house ambassador to be on the research staff, getting involved. So I think that is the thing that we need, the message that I think is important. I think is Mr. Ambassador Ajibe on the line? Is it working? It's not working yet.
Conceptualized by the ace multilingual broadcaster of immense talent and creative genius, Prince Bisi Olatilo, Chairman CEO of Biscon Communication Global Media Network 25 years ago, the Bisi Olatilo Show, BOS, has become the strongest, most admired and preferred global brand in the art of high society celebrity entertainment broadcasting. For the past quarter of a century, the ubiquitous The Bisi Olatilo Show, BOS, has become the face of Nigeria on global television, projecting the image of the country with our peculiar lifestyles, fashionable dress sense, and the different ways Nigerians celebrate from the north, east, west, and south, showcasing proudly Nigerian inimitable styles of celebration. From very humble beginnings to global recognition, the Bisi Olatilo Show, BOS, marks 25 years of captivating, non-stop entertainment. BOS celebrates remarkable entertaining brilliance, unforgettable moments, and lifelong memories. For 25 years, the ubiquitous Bisi Olatilo Show has charmed and captivated hearts of our global audiences beyond borders with enchanting and unmatched entertainment. The Bisi Olatilo Show, BOS, celebrates 25 years of incredible creative power as the most admired brand in the art of high society entertainment broadcasting. The Bisi Olatilo Show, BOS, is usually the first program to break the news about any big-ticket event across and beyond the shores of Nigeria. As the Bisi Olatilo Show, BOS, celebrates its 25th anniversary of setting the pace and pioneering a very compelling and engaging style of celebrity entertainment broadcasting, 25 years on and still counting, BOS has embarked on a new era of 24-hour TV broadcasting with Biscon Television. Biscon TV, which is on terrestrial and satellite broadcast platforms, churns out news, sports, politics, business, as well as lifestyle and entertainment programs 24 hours daily. Biscon TV, which has a very strong presence on YouTube, is the fastest growing platform on YouTube and other social media platforms. It's a magnificent transformation from BOS, a weekly program, to Biscon TV, a 24-hour TV station which churns out general interest news, sports, and lifestyle and entertainment programs. More years of brilliant broadcasting from the stable of Biscon Communication Global Media Network beckons. Flooding, most common and recurrent disaster in Nigeria. Nigeria has two main climate seasons every year. The raining season takes place between April to September, and the dry season, which is influenced by the Harmattan wind from the Sahara, is between December to March each year. Rainfall is one of the primary factors that can lead to flooding. Intense or prolonged rainfall can amount to water entering rivers, streams, and other water bodies which can exceed their capacity to safely contain it. This excess water then spills over into surrounding areas, causing flooding. The intensity and duration of rainfall can significantly impact the likelihood and severity of flooding. Climate change also plays a pivotal role in flooding due to a rise in global temperatures as the atmosphere can hold more moisture, leading to more intense rainfall events. Flooding is the most common and recurring disaster in Nigeria. According to a report in October 2022, flooding affected 34 out of the 36 states in the country and displaced 1.3 million people. Over 600 people lost their lives and over 200,000 houses were either partially or fully damaged. More than 2.5 million people were in need of humanitarian assistance, 60% of which are children. The World Bank has estimated the total economic damage from the 2022 floods, including damage to residential and non-residential buildings, infrastructure, productive sectors, and farmlands, at approximately $6.6 billion. Also, in October 2023, the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, issued an alert over the threat of rapid flooding along the River Niger and River Benue Basin, owing to the release of water from the Lagdo Dam in the Republic of Cameroon. According to NEMA, states such as Adamawa, Benue, Taraba, Nasarawa, Kogi, Anambra, Edo, Delta, Rivers, and Bayelsa were affected. In Adamawa State, reports showed that the floods caused a large-scale displacement of more than 8,504 households, which affected 51,043 individuals, the majority of whom are women, children, and the elderly living in different communities in the state. The flooding caused infrastructure damage, of which include roads, houses, health facilities, IDP sites, schools, and other community facilities across 14 out of 21 LGAs in Adamawa State. Meanwhile, in 2023, the Director General of NEMA, Mansour Matazu, says Nigeria lost $4.6 billion due to flooding, which has contributed negatively to the nation's gross domestic product. The negative impact of flooding cannot be overemphasized, as it affects individuals, damage to agriculture, economic impacts, communities, and the environment. In 2022, cases of diarrhea and waterborne diseases, respiratory infection, and skin diseases were on the rise. In the northeastern states of Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe alone, a total of 7,485 cases of cholera and 319 associated deaths were reported. In light of this, the federal government, through the Minister of Water Resources and Sanitation, Professor Joseph Utsev, has warned that 148 local government areas across 31 states are among the highly probable flood risk areas for 2024. The identified states are Adamawa, Akwa Ibom, Anambra, Bauchi, Bayelsa, Benue, Borno, Cross River, Delta, Ebonyi, Edo, Imo, Jigawa, Kaduna, Kano, Katsina, Kebbi, Kogi, Kwara, Lagos, Nasarawa, Niger, Ogun, Ondo, Osun, Oyo, Plateau, Rivers, Sokoto, Taraba, and Yobe states. According to the minister, high flood risk areas span from April to November 2024, with potential impacts on population, agriculture, livelihoods, livestock, infrastructure, and the environment. Meanwhile, the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, has begun to put in place proactive measures to mitigate climate impact as well as flooding in the year 2024. The Commission says stakeholders with vast experiences in various fields such as agriculture, health, water resources, and infrastructure have been brought together to brainstorm so as to come up with actionable climate-related disaster preparedness and mitigation strategies that would assist in preparing for the responding to expected impact of the predicted climate hazards. To mitigate the impact of flooding in the country, the federal government needs to invest more in early warning systems to provide timely alerts to residents in flood-prone areas, giving them time to evacuate and protect their property. Implement strict land use regulations to prevent construction in flood-prone areas. Also, the federal government should invest in improving infrastructure such as building and maintaining proper drainage systems, levees, and dams to prevent or minimize flooding, increasing public awareness about flood risk, and providing education on how to mitigate these risks, such as proper flood-proofing techniques, can help reduce the impact of flooding. Finally, providing financial assistance to individuals and communities affected by flooding would help them recover and rebuild after the disaster. As the Biscon Tv show, BOS, the globally acknowledged leading brand in the cutting-edge, inimitable production of groundbreaking events dating back many decades, prepares to celebrate its Silver Jubilee anniversary, it's time to blow our own trumpet resoundingly, stating the qualities that have continued to endear the BOS brand to all our fans across and beyond Nigeria. In the last 25 years, the Biscon Tv show, BOS, which is the longest-running general interest magazine program on television in Nigeria, has covered and broadcasted events of social, economic, corporate, political, and entertainment values every week unfailingly. With iconic events dating back many decades captured for posterity, BOS honors those living and immortalizes the dead everlastingly. The Biscon Tv show, BOS, proudly boasts of being one of the broadcast outfits with the richest library of archives of past events. The Biscon Tv show's awesome archive of iconic events parade the coverage of convocations of universities, coronations of traditional rulers, inaugurations of state governors in Nigeria, the inaugurations of Nigerian presidents, and President Barack Obama of the United States of America. 2010 World Cup in South Africa, covered by the ubiquitous Biscon Tv show, BOS. BOS was also at the inauguration of the Alake of Egbaland 16 years ago, Oba of Benin 8 years ago, Oni of Ife, Ulu of Warri, and many more. As for the birthday, anniversary, and weddings of the high and mighty in the society, the BOS archives is replete with very exciting pan and beyond Nigerian super coverages. As for the festivals like Calabar Carnival, Ujude Oba Festival of the Ijebus, Lishabi Festival of the Egbas of Ogun State, and others, the Biscon Tv show BOS simply is the toast of all. The corporate concerns, the banks, telecommunication companies, and other business concerns have made BOS their prime choice over the years. The newspapers, state governments would rather the almighty Biscon Tv show give the coverage of their awards our inimitable packaging as exemplified by what we have in the awesome BOS archives. The Biscon Tv show, BOS, is the preferred choice of state governments in the propagation and publicity of their programs to their different constituents in different states, because the Biscon Tv show is the #1 program they've all been watching religiously in the last 25 years. In fact, the Biscon Tv show, BOS, commissioned to provide a comprehensive nationwide campaign program for President Goodluck Jonathan, President Muhammadu Buhari, and President Bola Tinubu, which took the BOS team around the country campaigning for votes for the candidates at the time. The Biscon Tv show, BOS, was also involved in rigorous campaign for Governor Duoye Diri of Bayelsa State, Senator Hope Uzodinma of Imo State, and Governor Gboyega Oyetola of Osun State. Incidentally, these were all clients of BOS from the two different political parties, APC and PDP. Also, in the very rich archives of BOS, with events that span over 25 years, is the one where BOS paid an everlasting honor to immortalize Nigeria's First Lady of all times, Mrs. Stella Obasanjo, who died 19 years ago. The Biscon Tv show, BOS, the first and the best, still remains on the very top of our game.
God, our Heavenly Father, we have gathered this morning to discuss democracy, governance, and national performance, a mutual relationship. We thank you for bringing us together to deliberate and to discuss on the way forward for our nation. We ask you, Lord, to send your Holy Spirit upon us, especially upon the speakers and the panelists. Fill them with your spirit, inspire them that through their thoughts and sharing we may be blessed. Lord God, grant them wisdom, understanding, and help them to make great impact through the lecture we are going to deliver today. We ask this through Christ our Lord. We also pray for our dear brother, Prof. Thank you for the gift of him to our world and to our nation. You have used him as an instrument to bring us together to discuss. We ask you, Lord, to bless him with more wisdom and continue to use him to do great things for our nation. For all those who have gathered this day for this interaction, for this program, we ask you, Lord, to bless us. And that this day may be a day of blessings and good tidings for all of us. May you, O Lord, bless our nation, Nigeria, and her leaders. We ask this through Christ our Lord. In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Abiodun Koya. I particularly like the hair, it's quite distinct and different.
Distinguished guests, it's my honor and privilege to be in Nigeria for holidays, and I heard to witness this day and our dear country. And the song is called Top Nigeria. And this song is important to me to tell you that it was divinely given to me in a dream. Seriously. And so I'm going to sing it, and if you've heard it before, I'd love for you to join me in singing it. Multimedia, are we ready? Yeah, go ahead, please. Volume up. We'll lift up Nigeria with my voice. I will lift up Nigeria with my voice. I will shout, sing, and speak of all the glories. I will lift up Nigeria with my voice. Thank you so very much.
In infrastructure and development services, an innovator in planning application. I hope you help us in planning this new Nigeria that we are planning for. He initiated and completed the first geographic information system transportation application in the United States of America and the state of Michigan. So ladies and gentlemen, please a round of applause for him. His co-speaker, she is Dr. Henrietta Nwambweze, MSc, MBA, PhD. Is she here? Please a round of applause for her. Okay, if she's not here, we'll continue with the list, and we welcome also the self-made gentleman, Mustafa Inji. Please, you're welcome, sir. He studied chemistry. Okay, it's all right, sir. You're welcome. The next person on the panel of discussion is Dr. Lemon A. Ipia, JPCON. Please. You're here. Thank you very much, gentlemen. He's the founder and executive chairman of Lee Engineering Company and Allied Company Limited. They call it the Lee Group. A round of applause for him, please. And then we have Dr. Alfred Okegun, who is the founder and group managing director of ACO Group PLC, a diversified company with operations spanning maintenance, engineering, support services, marine logistics. We have brilliant individuals in this country. Please a round of applause for them. Please, you're welcome, sir. Dr. Cosmos Maduka is the next on the list of my co-discussant. If he's here, please, he's on his way. Thank you. The last but not the least is another gentleman, an entrepreneur par excellence, Dr. Mr. Kennedy Tunde, founder of Leaders and Digital Fintech Leaders with operation in Africa and Europe. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome this fantastic entrepreneur. Welcome, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, may I now also invite or call to the podium and then the moderator of this very important panel of discussants and speakers. He is the birthday boy. He's not any other person than Professor Pat Utomi. Professor Pat is a special breed of individual. At the age of 27, he was actually born on February 6, 1956. At the age of 27, he was appointed as special, is special advisor to President Shehu Shagari on policy and monitoring. Professor Pat has been an activist in moderating the activities of Nigeria. Even at the age of 19 and 21, he helped to force a cabinet reshufflement in order to give Nigeria the kind of leadership that we deserve. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand up and help me welcome the birthday boy himself, Professor Pat Utomi, who has continued to moderate the Nigerian state in order to get the right thing done. Mr. Chairman, sir, you are welcome. Malam Muhammad Hayatu, as I said, a presidential aspirant of the PDP, a gentleman par excellence who has helped in also championing the cause of democracy in Nigeria. You are welcome, sir.
I have a small flu, so if you cannot hear me very well, just shout and I'll try to elevate my voice. I would like to formally welcome all of you to this very epoch ceremony. I would like to begin by wishing my very dear bosom friend, Patu Tommy, a very happy birthday and many more happy returns. To the distinguished panelists, I would like to welcome you, and I know that we're going to have a very robust and engaging conversation this afternoon on the subject of entrepreneurship. Let me say, that is his story. Happy birthday. Let me make a few remarks before I even get to my opening statement. Afternoon is to provide a few teasers and not to take the time of the speakers at all. Let me say a thing or two about Pat and myself. I have known Pat from our youthful days in the early 1990s here in Lagos, and we have both been intellectual radicals and intellectual rascals as well. We've come to share so many things in terms of our ethos and values together, and our friendship has actually blossomed over the years. It is therefore no wonder that both of us found ourselves within the political spectrum over a long period of time, even though both of us have been deeply embedded in our experience in the academic and the corporate world. I would like to just make a few comments, and I would like to read. So, ladies and gentlemen, and our esteemed entrepreneurs that are represented here today, I stand before you today with a profound sense of admiration for the spirit of innovation and resilience that defines each one of you in this room. As entrepreneurs, you are the architects of change, indeed the drivers of progress, and the visionaries shaping the future, especially of this country. Talking about the essence of entrepreneurship, I would like to explore its objectives, its evolution, the current state, its components, and its promising future, particularly in the context of this country. Firstly, I think it is increasingly becoming obvious that the objectives of entrepreneurship go beyond mere profit. Entrepreneurs strive to create value, they solve problems, and contribute to social progress and human development. It is about dreaming dreams and transforming these dreams into reality. The landscape of entrepreneurship is constantly evolving, from traditional brick and mortar business to the digital era today. The dynamics have changed, resulting in a very powerful paradigm shift towards sustainable and socially responsible entrepreneurship. In Nigeria, this evolution is mirrored in the growing emphasis on technology-driven solutions and the rise of socially impactful enterprises. Ladies and gentlemen, today entrepreneurship is a multifaceted concept with various components. It encompasses technological innovation, social entrepreneurship, and the blending of traditional business models with modern approaches. Collaboration, adaptability, and a keen understanding of market trends have become indispensable components of entrepreneurial success. As we take stock of the current state of entrepreneurship, Nigeria stands at the crossroads of immense potential. The nation's vibrant and youthful population, coupled with its growing digital infrastructure, positions it as a hotspot for entrepreneurial endeavors. The Nigerian entrepreneurial ecosystem is witnessing a surge in startups and innovative solutions, particularly in sectors like the creative arts, fintech, agriculture, and renewable energy. However, with great potential, of course, comes great responsibilities and challenges. Entrepreneurs in Nigeria face many issues such as access to capital, massive amount of corruption and toll gates, regulatory hurdles, and major infrastructural limitations. Their success hinges on navigating these challenges with creativity and resilience. I know of no other set of people, and I've traveled around the world, confronted with these set of challenges that have been able to prevail and still make their businesses successful. Just taking one example, someone like my good friend Cosmos Madukan, if the institutional and societal constraints did not pose a hurdle and he was operating in a seamless environment, today he would have been a global player and would have probably integrated forward or integrated backward into the manufacture of motor vehicles and other ancillary components. Therefore, collaborative efforts between the government, the private sector, even the civil society and educational institutions are crucial to fostering an environment conducive to entrepreneurial success. Looking forward, the trajectory of entrepreneurship in Nigeria is promising. With an increasing focus on education, mentorship programs, and a supportive ecosystem, we can anticipate a surge in successful ventures. The fusion of technology and entrepreneurship will play a pivotal role in shaping the future landscape, offering opportunities for growth and impact. In conclusion, The journey of entrepreneurship is a dynamic and transformative one. As we navigate the evolving landscape, let us remain committed to our objectives, embrace innovation, and collectively overcome the challenges that lie ahead. Together, we can build a future where entrepreneurship in Nigeria becomes synonymous with innovation, sustainability, and prosperity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. We now move quickly to the next item on the agenda, and I call on the Professor of Economics par excellence, a man that has been sorted for everywhere almost in the globe of this world. He's no other than Professor Pat Utomi, the birthday boy who is moderating and continuously moderating until when he gets to that Rubicon of change for the Nigerian people. That is what we'll continue to celebrate in the more. Prof, you are welcome, sir.
Thank you. As I welcome Professor Onwebuzie, who will be speaking after the Tradile Nwankwo. Mr. Chairman, dear speakers, panelists, very, very distinguished guests. This is a very special day for me, for many, many, many reasons. One of the great passions of my life has been how to stimulate the spirit of enterprise in our country. For more than 30 years, I have passionately spoken about the importance of entrepreneurship. Dr. Onwebuzie, who will speak here and speak to a version of this, will remember that 30 years ago at the Lagos Business School, there was a big debate between my colleagues and I about strategy. It was agreed that we were a general management institution. And I kept saying, yes, we may be a general management institution, but we don't build a country without entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship. In March of 1996, a friend of mine who was a Wharton alum and was on the board of Wharton, was then chief executive of the biggest African-American owned investment bank in the US, Malcolm Pryor. I approached Malcolm to introduce me to the dean of Wharton. And Malcolm was very pleased to do that. And so off we went. I came in from Washington by train that morning, went to see the dean. And I said to the dean, I know you are a famous finance general management institution, but do you do any entrepreneurship around here? He said, how do we justify our existence if we don't stimulate entrepreneurship? Now, we have a great center for entrepreneurship called the Soul C. Snyder Center for Entrepreneurship. And actually, the fellow who leads is an African. I said, oh, really? It turned out to be a South African gentleman who he then called up and went to visit with. And right there, I saw booths that they had set up where they give free counsel to local businessmen from Philadelphia. I knew my colleagues could not stop me after that. So when I came back, I pounded the table, stood on it, did everything I could do. And we agreed to set up a Center for Entrepreneurship Studies, which is today called EDC at the Lagos Business School. So this is a moment of great fulfillment for me. Today, the person who leads entrepreneurship at the Lagos Business School is Dr. Onwebuzie, I always volunteer to be her assistant. Whatever instruction she gives me, I accept. Doesn't matter that she was my student 25 years ago, but that's the cycle. And I'm excited this morning. Why do we have a double header? Tomorrow we talk about democracy and state performance. But today we focus on entrepreneurship, because that state will not be there if we don't create wealth. Mr. Peter Obi, who I believe will join us at some point, made a big point about moving from consumption to production. And I'm always careful to qualify that nothing wrong with consumption. In fact, you know, if we don't have consumption, we will not produce. But, you know, we must produce. And some kind of consumption targeted at early stages is how we probably should go. The Naira is in crisis. I have a prepared text which is in the brochure you have, so I won't try to read it or anything like that. I'll just say a few things that are important to me about why we're meeting, and then you can read the prepared text which is in this brochure. Everybody's worried about the Naira, you know, and blaming this person, blaming that person, central banks. All that stuff has very little to do with Naira. Naira is the way it is because Nigeria does not produce. And for a whole generation, we have shared what God put in the ground, produced by foreigners. Thank God we're not beginning to have a Nigerian oil industry, thank God. Because usually produced by foreigners offshore in the main, and whatever rents we extract is what runs Nigeria. And every budget speech talks about diversifying the base of the Nigerian economy away from the, I can almost read the budget speech, the mouth of the president going through it, from the monocultural dependence on crude oil. End of the year, exactly where we started from. Because there has been no passionate commitment to it or understanding of the process. Key is production. What makes you produce? There's a tradition in market economies of assuming that the logic of economics will lead to a trickle down that will force that behavior. It doesn't quite happen so quickly like that. It might take 200 years for it to happen. We just depend on it. So there is the need to actually do something to facilitate this transformation. And lately I've taken to talking about India a great deal. You know, in 1993, I used to write a lot about, or in the early 90s, I used to write a lot about the Asian tigers. And a friend of mine was a professor at INSEAD called Jonathan Story, wrote a case study about 1992 that was titled India, Hindu Elephant or Asian Tiger. The question of where was India really going? Could it become like one of the tigers? Would it just be a Hindu elephant that just, you know, struggles along? And what has happened is that India, which was technically bankrupt in 1991, 3 weeks trading money in its foreign reserves. If we think we have a problem, India was down to 3 weeks trading money in its foreign reserves in 1991. All that happened was a change in leadership. The Gandhis, of course, were hugging the premiership, and then Rajiv gets killed in this assassination, and so they found a placeholder, an old man called Ratnima Rao, placeholder just to hold the thing until they found the next Gandhi who will become prime minister. And the joke we used to make was that he had nothing to lose. He had 3 files: the problems that time have solved, the problems that time is solving, the problems that time will solve. But it was not true. Actually, I challenge my Indian friends that they've not written the correct story of India, because Rao changed India. He's not got his due place in Indian history. Not yet, but he will. Rao appointed Manmohan Singh as finance minister, and Singh began the reforms that would change the course of India's history. I don't know if Hetty was in Hetty's class, but I used to make a point about how India's foreign reserves by 1994 were growing at like $1 billion a week. All of that led to the Indian diaspora now becoming very challenged about India's process. And that's why part of the activity today involves what the Nigerian diaspora are doing with us in terms of stimulating entrepreneurship. That is why our keynote is a diaspora person, Dr. Adele Nwankwo, who has done remarkable things in America, but can do even greater things from there for us here. Indian diaspora became that driver. As a business school teacher, I used to, of course, travel frequently, get to the US, try to visit deans of business schools. At a point, several of the deans of the major business schools in America were Indian. You will go to Northwestern and Kellogg, the Deepak will not be there. He was always traveling to India. He ended up on the board of Renaissance Industries and all of those. Dean at Wharton was Indian, from everywhere. When Joseph Stiglitz reviewed or rethought globalization and wrote Globalization and Its Discontents, Jagdish Bhagwati at Columbia wrote In Defense of Globalization, because globalization was helping India. Now, the discipline that has entered India since Modi came to power changed everything. Professor Obu, who is going to be here, should be here shortly, has written a book about development, about his attitude. You know, and Professor Obu makes a point about that attitude, and that's what we're desperate to get to happen in Nigeria, the attitude for development. And my friends, we should be looking at how India changed. What changed in India? When we returned to democracy in 1999, India was a scene of huge violence, political violence everywhere. Today, nobody talks about violence in India anymore. Nigeria, where we didn't have much violence, all that we have is violence. Critical to it all is the failure of entrepreneurship and economic development. If we should learn anything from India, it is what happened. Compare us to him. One of the speakers tomorrow was just boarding a flight in Frankfurt an hour or so ago, wrote a book titled Growing Apart. It was a comparison of Nigeria and Indonesia. Peter Lewis, you know, in the 60s, they used to say to Indonesia, if only you could be like Nigeria. By the 90s, they were saying to Nigeria, if only you could be like Indonesia. What happened to us that this is the story? Peter will tell the story again tomorrow. He's writing a new book on Nigeria, and at tomorrow's lecture, it will be interesting to see the perceptions that he has of what has changed. So, once we recognize that the strength of the Naira, the economy and all of that is really about going from, as Mr. Obi, as I said earlier, would say, consumption to production, we solve the problem. But it's a deliberate strategy. It doesn't just happen like that. It can trickle down, but it will take you 100 years. What is the strategy that we should apply? In my view, the dominant thinking in my own mind today is that we have to pursue latent comparative advantage along value chains. How do we look at our factor endowments and take specific endowments that want to become global leaders in those value chains and use industrial policy, limited industrial policy, not general import substitution kind of bans and all of that, to stimulate that sector, facilitate young people becoming producers in that sector. And today, I'm hoping that our diaspora friends can talk about this, because one of the initiatives that I have been laboring on is to create industrial parks around the country with incubators where diaspora investors and Nigerian entrepreneurs can pair, we can be sure that the problem of, like, I sent money to my cousin to build a house and he's sending me somebody else's photograph will not occur through use of blockchain and those kinds of things. Can really ratchet up entrepreneurship, create massive production uptakes, and compete in global markets. So that's generally on that front. So let me make my remarks not too long, say a word or two about the speakers and how we put this together, and then do some begging. I'm always begging. Dr. Agile Nwankwo, I've had the privilege of knowing for many years when he was the Mid-Americas executive for PB. Parsons Brickinghoff is one of the biggest infrastructure firms in America. And I visited with him in his office in downtown Detroit, like what, 20-something years or so ago. You wouldn't recognize downtown Detroit anymore today. I mean, it is. I was so blown last Christmas. I was in Detroit around Christmas. And I said, this is Detroit. I don't believe it. This Adele here was significantly responsible for it. So we are so excited that Dr. Nwankwo can join us this morning and show us a few things and stimulate some of that interaction that I'm hoping we can between the diaspora and Nigeria to get us going. My colleague and current boss, Dr. Henrietta Onwebuzie, has been doing a lot around apprenticeship, entrepreneurship. And most of the knowledge-based entrepreneurs often don't go as far as they should go because we don't create the appropriate training for them. Peter Woike used to be director, vice president of the IFC. He came to Nigeria after he was appointed. He's German. And he came, managed the LBS. We had a lunch event with him. And I said to him, look, I work for a German company. I know the Ausbildung, the dual education system, where people get apprenticeship training. We gave them at Volkswagen, and they were hot. Siemens was going to snap many of them because they could make decent money. Went out and set up their own electrical shop, mechanic. They did okay. They paid and run it, create more jobs, and expand the economy. But he just thinks, how do I make enough money to be a big man in my neighborhood? And that is what we needed to change. Peter Woike got very excited and said, IFC will fund this. And there was a Pakistani gentleman who used to run IFC in Nigeria. He got into a tussle with who will manage it, Lagos Business School, IFC, then he created something called STEPS. It became a mess. He didn't get anywhere. And this is the kind of thing that we started trying to do decades ago. Imagine that initiative had gone far where we could be in taking skills-driven entrepreneurship to build this economy. So Hetty is going to speak to us about some of the work that she's been doing in this area. Adele is an Aba man. Anyway, so how do we take all this going forward? So I thought we should bring some of Africa's successful, skills-driven entrepreneurs to talk to us. And so my friend Mustafa comes in. South Africa Global. Many of us may have met him on the internet and the many wonderful, wonderful things that he's doing. The MC said he studied chemistry. No, he didn't study chemistry. He wanted to study chemistry. He went to university and studied chemistry until the teacher went to beg his parents. This guy, look, he's fantastic in these skills. Good woodwork. This guy is great in woodwork. Let him just take the exam at least. Then he was retained as a teacher assistant to teach woodwork and stuff. Then a multinational picked him up as an engineer's assistant. Then he began to venture, built a low-cost housing unit in Banjul, in the Gambia, where he is from. And then one African head of state, Mali, President of Mali, was visiting and said, look at those low-cost housing. They said, yeah, it's one of our young boys. And then he said he wanted to meet him. Today, Mustafa displaying in what 11 African countries, 9 effectively. You know, those of us from Port Harcourt will know he built the famous Reef Town Golf Estate in Port Harcourt, and just been commissioned to do another 20,000 housing units in Rivers or thereabouts. From Gambia. In fact, he's building a new town in Gambia that's bigger than the capital of Banjul. And of course, next to him is former Speaker of the Edo House, Matthew Egbadon, who is very much part of the Lee Engineering and Construction Group. Lee Monekpea, who founded the firm, fortunately is in Europe, cannot make it back for a variety of reasons, but Matthew will give us a sense for what that group has done. Phenomenal. From a container. Business started from a container, and we know where it is today. I've had the privilege of writing a case study on Alfred Okoyegun's remarkable efforts at ACO many years ago, and my parent customers will be here. He's attending to something across the road actually, but he will join us. He too will tell the customary story. These are people from Skills. And then where's today? Okay, you're there. How do we finance these people and all of that? Because this is the base of all this conversation and stuff. So this is why we are here, and I'm glad to welcome us to this. But I can't go without saying that I always have a few things that are at the top of my head that are something that if we give our hearts to, we can make a difference. One of them is the building of world-class, high-quality schools that the poorest of the poor can attend free of charge, where design and tech starts at primary school level. I am passionate about this. We're struggling with it, and we can use contributions from those who would like to leave an impact in this world to that project. And we'll be begging about that all through this year. At any point in time, you can contribute to it. We already started building one actually, and we have to be in partnership with either a church or so that they can keep sustainability will be there. This one is fairly different. I've just written this book that captures where the problem of development in Nigeria really lies. Titled Power, Policy, Politics and Performance. The bureaucracy. How do you make it an effective driver? I hope that people will make this book available to every bureaucrat in this country to read, just buy and distribute. So these are the two things that I'm really very passionate about right now, and I'm driving to make happen. And I hope during the course of the next couple of days, we'll get people to sign up to be part of that. Thank you so very much. I took up more time than I wanted to, but I thought it was important to set the background for what we're trying to accomplish today. Thank you.
So today we're going to be speaking about skills-driven entrepreneurship, just as Professor Tommy spoke to us about. By the way, Professor Tommy, happy birthday. Many happy returns. And more grace. So I'm going to just put this in two main questions. The first is, why is skills-driven entrepreneurship important? And the second is, how can we make it more prevalent in Nigeria? Now, if you look at my next slide, you will see a map of Africa, just to give you some background about where we are in our context. And in that map, you're going to see that Africa can contain the United States, China, and India. Now, it's interesting to note that China's population is 1.4 billion, and it's within Africa. India's population, look at the size, is 1.4 billion also, and it can be contained within Africa. The United States has a population of 340 million within Africa. Now, all of Africa, if you just click, I don't know what you can see because I can't see it from here, I'm using my phone. All of Africa is just 1.4 billion. What does that tell you? That we're very sparsely populated, contrary to the popular belief that we are overpopulated and our problems to do with population. Okay? Just so that we can focus and put. Now, I did a small analysis which I will just quickly show you. if you go to the next slide, if you're seeing the next slide, you will see that I listed the 10 most richest countries in the world, so the 6 richest countries in the world. Then I added Nigeria, and then looked at Africa. Now, you can see that the GDP of the US is $25 trillion, while the one of Nigeria is 1.1 trillion, and Africa as a whole is doing 3.1 trillion, which is less than what the UK, a country, is doing. Africa is a continent, UK is a country. Okay? And the question is, why? Okay? We're going to come back to that. In the next slide, I do an analysis. Okay? That shows you that I compare Africa and China. Remember, Africa is a continent, China is a country. We look at the population of Africa, 1.4 billion, same with China. The land size of Africa is what? 30.8 million kilometers squared. That of China is 9.6. So it means that we're like 3 times bigger than China. 3 times 9 is 27, right? So 30 million, we're actually 3 times bigger than China, more or less, 9.6 million. Okay, which means that China's population density is much more than ours. You have 146 people in each kilometer square, while in Africa you have 46 people. Okay, so again, we're sparsely populated. However, when it comes to unemployment, 33% of our population in Nigeria is unemployed. In China, it's just 3.96. Out of school children, 20 million in Nigeria out of school. That's about 9% of our population. In China, just 3.96 children out of school, which is 1% of their population. What this tells us that our biggest problem are 1, unemployment, 2, out of school children. Okay? So the question we're going to be looking at is, how do we get this 20 million into school in Nigeria? How do we harness the assets in our youth board, which is supposed to be an advantage to us? And are we providing the right type of education to be able to get the kind of results we want? Okay? Now, in trying to look at the solution, I thought I should title that decolonization of education in Africa. Why decolonization? Because unemployment was inexistent in pre-colonial Africa. And that's because everybody had a skill that they had in hand. Okay, so if you were born into a family of blacksmiths, fishermen, carvers, you already knew, because you were learning from your parents from childhood. By the time you were a teenager, you were already an expert. And by the time you were an adult, you could take care of your families. People could marry early, they could take care of their families. So with the advent of colonialism, what happened? We all got into this job-seeking orientation. School told us that the picture of success is that you go to school to get a job. Okay? So in the same time somebody does apprenticeship and becomes a business leader, you go to school and you're carrying a CV around, I beg to apply. And so this triggered unemployment, especially now that technology is allowing less people to do more. So you have more people graduating and there are no jobs available. Okay? Meanwhile, the apprentice who is not as schooled as all of us here is doing things, making money, and thriving, because all he has to say is dollar and I'm increasing my price, and you pay. Okay, while the salaried guy, if he managed to get a job, has a fixed salary and is suffering more and more daily. So today, apprentices have jobs more readily than graduates. Okay, and it's the same whether in the UK, Germany, or in Nigeria. And so we had a superior system which we abandoned due to ideologies. Okay, we were told that what is Western is best and what is indigenous is primitive. So we abandoned all the things we had that were going well for us, and we embraced the Western. Okay, until another school of thought came up to say, look, careful, every country has its peculiarities and should develop based on that. Okay, so while in Asia they follow the dependencies very strongly, which is we have our values, we have our systems, we will follow it. In Africa, we abandoned ours and followed the Western one, and today the jury is out. Asia is growing, Africa seems to be sliding backwards. Even though there's a net growth, I must say. Okay? So the problem now, how do we fix this problem? Okay? Regarding the curriculum, we have to have a change. We can't continue to program people to believe that you go to school to get a job, because it's not going to yield the right results. We have to begin to develop job creators. Our institutions, whether secondary schools or universities or polytechnics, need to begin to develop people who will become job creators. Now, just for us to understand how important this is, let's even look at the results of skill-based entrepreneurship, which is what most of our SMEs are. Most of them are not very schooled, but guess what? They contribute 50% to our national GDP. Okay? They contribute over 84% of employment in the country. Not the corporates, not the oil companies, not governments. It is these unskilled SMEs that actually provide jobs for 84% of our population. Okay? And they account for 96% of the businesses in Nigeria. Now, imagine what would happen if these people were trained better. So, I did another comparison between the output of apprentices and academic output. So, usually apprenticeship can go between 4 years or more, and also the same thing goes for the number of years you spend in university most of the time, okay? Apart from the doctors and the architects who spend more time in school. When an apprentice finishes, he's trained to become a business leader. When you graduate from school, you're a job seeker. The apprentice who is a business leader becomes a job creator. He's hiring other apprentices and making money, getting business, okay? Whether he's a furniture maker or he runs a business in Balogun, okay? The trained one is a CD carrier hopping from one job to another. The apprentices makes a lot of money faster, okay? The people in Balogun are counting, Paul, you're here, you know what your uncle was doing, okay? Counting millions daily. The graduate is waiting for 75,000 at the end of the month. And of course, the apprentice is constantly innovating and increasing his revenues. Okay, look at slots. Okay, that's another entrepreneur who is into the telephone business. We all know slots, the business slots. Okay, growing in leaps and bounds. Each time I see slots, his business is growing in turnover by at least 2 billion every year. While the other one who's in the job, there's no job security anymore. Right now, multinationals have just left, so many people have lost their jobs. Okay, and even before that, there was a lot of downsizing and resizing going on. So that illusion of, I don't want to go into apprenticeship or, entrepreneurship or skill-based learning because I want job security. Job security today no longer exists. It's an illusion. Okay, people are losing, companies are right-sizing or downsizing. I myself will patronize you and I'll get customers for you. And at the end of each month, you can make 300,000. You still want the job. Think about it. She said, no, I don't. I can actually make more money from my skill-based entrepreneurship, okay? So the point I'm trying to make here is that we have been programmed, when we stop thinking, even when the results are paltry, people are leaving what can give them more money to look like those who go to the office, even though they're living in poverty. So we need to really have a change of our mindsets regarding skill-based entrepreneurship, okay, as opposed to getting a job. I'm not saying getting a job is bad, especially if when you're in that job with an entrepreneurial mindset, which is a solution-driven mindset, okay? What can I learn here? What value can I add to people that people will be willing to pay for? And how do I continuously improve what I'm offering? That's the entrepreneurial mindset. Entrepreneurs are problem solvers, and people are willing to pay for solutions that they need, okay? So that's the way to think about it. So we've got to emphasize job creation orientation over job seeking. And keep in mind that, and you see, it's not too late to go for apprenticeship at any point in time. Namdi, the MD of Slot, was actually a trained electrical engineer, but he couldn't find a job. So he went to apprentice in Computer Village. Today, he is #1 in the whole of West Africa in terms of turnover. His #2 is billions below him. Okay? So if he had continued to carry his CV from one desk to the other, I don't know where he will be today, but he certainly will not be the multi-billionaire that he is today. So let's be open. Let's go beyond thinking that, it's only a degree. I'm not saying a degree is useless. I have a degree myself, but I also run businesses on the side, okay, and I'm also a consultant. So the point I'm making here is we have to unprogram ourselves. The school system also needs to change because it's part of what is causing the damage, because we subconsciously make people believe that you go to school to get a job. That's one option, and it's not the best option. On the other hand, apprenticeship also effectively ensures financial inclusion, as people are either trainers or apprentices. Another question I get asked a lot is, you're so passionate about entrepreneurship, must we all be entrepreneurs? The truth is, we all need to have an entrepreneurial mindset, because it's a mindset of continuous improvement, okay? as a mindset of problem solving and continuous improvement. Even in paid employment, if you don't have a mindset of problem solving and continuous improvement, you can't be seen as senior management or CEO material. You need that mindset even in paid employment. And should anything happen to your paid employment, you should be able to survive because you can find ways to solve problems for people. So this is where we're going. Now, I came up with this model, which is my next slide, because again, don't forget that we said the problem is that we have the highest number of out-of-school children in the world, okay, and there's high unemployment. And I thought to myself, what if instead of the models we have of school today, we had what we call school ventures, which means that a school has a venture attached to it. So maybe a school with a bakery, a school with that teaches you construction skills, a school that also trains you in agribusiness farming, okay, a school with hairdressing, a school with tailoring. Now, how will that work? So I imagine it being in secondary school, okay, we have some secondary school students here, where you can also learn tailoring part-time, such that 3 hours or 5 hours a week, I don't know how to do, maybe 2 hours every 3 days a week, you go in to do some tailoring. Now, that tailoring business probably makes uniforms for big companies, and those funds are used to run the school, such that you can go to school without paying school fees. So the students earn to learn. Are we together? Okay? So you may not pay school fees, but it doesn't matter because you're going to be working part-time in the venture. Now, the other advantage of this system is that when you finish school, you are a professional tailor who can take yourself to university, tailoring for people. Okay, those who are into tailoring know how much they make. I'm dressed like this on purpose today because I wanted to wear something African. When I went to the fashion souk, I bought this in fashion souk. The minimum you can get anything like this is 60,000. People work a whole month to earn that amount of money. In fact, I've met graduates who work for 25,000 a month. I had to make one resign in front of me. I said, right now in front of me, you write a resignation letter because you are actually subsidizing your boss because you don't pay for rent and you eat free food. By the time you pay rent, free food, and pay for your lunch and take transport to work, you know that you are actually spending more to go to work than you're earning. Resign now in front of me. So for someone to go to school for 4 years and think she's lucky to have a job where they pay her 25, in fact, I thought it was so ridiculous that I mentioned it as an example in class the next day to my class of ONPs. They were looking at me as if, where are you? It's normal now, we pay 25k. I almost fainted. Okay? So you see the stupidity. Somebody in 2 days will make this and earn 60,000. And you say, I went to school, I'm wearing a suit to work for 25,000. Even if it is 65,000, which they pay even in banks. So my hope is that today we can be on program, but more importantly that we can begin to adopt a different model of education where both the teachers, okay, and the students, you don't have to tell somebody something before they begin to think in a certain way. By the time you've gone to school and seen that, I'm in a school, so again, what this means is that you choose your school according to the skill you want to learn. Imagine that I love cooking. I want to learn how to bake or whatever. I go to a school that has a bakery. There we bake bread and cakes. We supply supermarkets, we supply hotels, we supply restaurants. You make so much money that the school is even high class. I mean, you can pay good standard of good quality teachers to come, and the school is doing so well that people are killing themselves to come to the school. But at the end of the day, when I graduate from that school by SS3, I'm an expert. I can bake wedding cakes. I can bake bread. I don't need a job to take me to university or to take me to. I won't even need a job after university. I can manage on my own. Okay? Today we graduate people into frustration. It has to stop. Because Africans are intrinsically entrepreneurial. Before colonization, this is how we lived. We didn't call it that big name entrepreneurship or apprenticeship, but we lived like that and we were self-sufficient. We didn't know what unemployment was. And I think we have to learn from the past to make a better future. So just in finishing, I would just say, just to make the advantage of this system, there will be no need for school fees as students earn to learn if we follow this system of a school venture. Students finish school with a skill with which they can earn a living in future. Students are more disciplined and learn and have better time management skills because they have less idle time. I mean, I went to school abroad after Unilag and it was incredible. In the library, you see students watching films, and I'm thinking, my goodness, their parents are in Nigeria or different parts of the world, killing themselves to earn the foreign exchange to send them to school. They're thinking, don't work, because I want you to study. Study what? It is just students you tell don't work, I want you to study, that spend their time watching Netflix all the time. I experienced it, you know? So don't give children too much time. Let them work. It's healthy for them. The students graduate and can become business owners as they have apprenticed while schooling. There's less crime in society as there's less unemployment. And then these students are actually job creators upon graduation or even while in school. Okay, there are many students who are employing people while in school as opposed to job seekers when they finish. So for me, in finishing, every problem is a potentially profitable business opportunity. When we see, for example, for me right now, it's a time of opportunity for African entrepreneurs. Okay, there is inflation abroad, the naira is devalued. We're now going to be compelled to look inwards for import substitution. So please don't have a pity party. This is our time. Okay, what is it that we were importing that we can begin to produce? What we just need now are for policymakers to begin to support local production. Again, devaluation is good for exports. We're talking about moving from consumption to production. Okay? When your currency is devalued, your exports are cheaper and therefore more attractive. So this is a time for us to see how we can free up the bottlenecks in the export process so that local things can go abroad. Japa syndrome has created a huge diaspora market, which means that anything you have to sell, whether it is crayfish, I don't know, coconut candy, what's it called? There's a huge market. Chin chin, as local as it is, there's nothing you can't take to another level so long as you do it well and you package well. Okay, so there's a huge export market there for us. So please, let's not have a pity party. Let's make the best of any situation we find ourselves in, and this is one of such. So if Africa has many problems, it means Africa has many opportunities, and if Nigeria has many problems, it means Nigeria has many opportunities. So my final slide is this. First, let's have a mindset change, okay? Rather than develop students who are looking for jobs, let's develop students who use their knowledge to solve problems. Let's empower them to understand the principles of business success, and let's make them impact-driven. Learn to make money from making a difference. If you look at the biggest businesses in the world, the world's entrepreneurs, from Bill Gates to Jeff Bezos, they didn't become wealthy because they wanted to make money. They were passionate about solving a problem, and their solution was so useful, everybody was willing to pay for it. That's how they became wealthy, okay? So the process to create wealth in a sustainable way is to look for something everybody needs. Like Jack Ma will say, if you want to remain small, solve small problems. If you want to be big, solve big problems, okay? So this is the mindset we need to develop people with. So I'm going to stop here. Thank you very much.
We'll be brief. And I'd like to start by thanking all the organizers of this event. I'd also like to recognize and tell my fellow panelists how humbled I am to be in your midst. And to all the distinguished people in our midst, thank you for this opportunity, and I'm glad to be here. I must say particularly to Mr. Peter Obi, we in the diaspora very much appreciated the clearness of your message and how you laid out what our country could be and others in this system. I want to start also by thanking Professor Pat Utumi, who I am privileged to call a friend. I'd like to start with, how did I get to know him? I got to know him through a physician who is an entrepreneur. He had an issue that needed to be resolved in order to get the permits he needed to build a very innovative center that he wanted to build. They couldn't give him the permits. His architect was a Nigerian. And after they went around for a while, the people that needed to clear said, you need to go, if you go to this firm, which is the company I worked for then, Parsons Sprinkle Hub, and have them take a look at what you want to do and do that,
they would approve it. So he came. And unfortunately, our staff did not rejected him and said, we don't do with this level of work. The company I worked for, and in fact when I was in charge, was things like the Panama Canal. If you've gone to Atlanta Airport, things like the Atlanta Airport, huge mega projects. So his architect said to him, but there is the guy that is there who is the boss, is a Nigerian. If you can get to him, he might help you. But don't tell him I gave you his number. So Pat's mutual friend called me and said, here is the issues, and I explained it, and we took care of it. Our Honorable Prof talked about where to go. Let me give you one. A Nigerian, if you really want to make money, simply customer service. If you can perfect customer service in whatever you're doing, you're well. So Pat's mutual friend, after 1 month I called him and I said, Doc, how did it go? Did we meet your needs? Was the things that people did were okay? He said, I don't understand the technical details. I took what you guys gave me to where I needed to go. They looked at it, they stamped my document, it was good for me. And then he said, by the way, I need you to meet someone. And he mentioned him, and I said, oh no, your case is gone. He kept pressing. He said, I need you to meet him. You will really like him. So Pat was visiting one day in US. A lunch was arranged and we met. And since then, we've been friends. And at another time he came, I saw how involved he was in the issue of the country. And I came to pick him at the airport and ask him a question with my friend that I've never forgotten. I asked him, why are you doing all this? Why did you choose to be in Nigeria and live in Nigeria and all the things that are going on? I don't know if he will remember. He says to me, I am working to provide answers for my children. But I don't know if you remember that. That has always stuck with me. It says, when my children ask me, Dad, for all these issues in Nigeria, what did you do? I want them to have an answer. That's why I am here. I'm now going to speak about my work life. My wife is here with me. We've been married for 45 years. I met her in college. And we are doing a project now for the last 4 years. And that's what I want to centralize the topic today. And that is on building skills and turning those that you have built these skills to become entrepreneurs. I was born in Aba. I'm proud I was born in Aba. In secondary school, I got into a lot of problems with that because they thought that people from Aba were just, I don't know, sometimes hooligans. We're non-conformists, but I was born there and I visit there, and I will make a quick trip there before I get back to United States. I have spoken to governors about skill acquisition. I remember that I went to South governors many years ago and we spoke that. I've spoken to a few governors. When you look, and that's where my experience comes in, when you look at great nations, I'm trained an engineer, a planner, and an economist. Those people are not really the people that build the nations. Nations are built by technicians and artisans. When I walk into a building, like I went to Central Africa, I can tell you the level of the artisans in that nation. When we were trying to do a small project in my village, one day I walked in and the builder was telling me that the people that were making the tiles, they bring them from Cotonou and to Togo. I was so enraged. They said, oh guy, you don't know. They can't get good tilers. And yet there are so many people unemployed in our nation. Last November, I was in Central African Republic for a project that I wanted to describe. I walked into a hotel. It's not the Transcourse. It's But you can see that the tower was very well led. There were no chalk, corners all over. And I observed to my friend, I said, these people, this is well done. He said, yeah, in this country, they do tiles well. In our country, we don't. Have you seen one of the single most problems in our nation? Plumbing. Go here and go to the restroom. And you can put in the edifice, walk it into the plumbing. Immediately you finish, you start leaking. And I want to tell you some of the things that we've done. I will not define entrepreneur for you, it's already been defined. I will not define skills for you, it's already been defined. I'm here to make a plea that if our nation needs to grow, we need to put emphasis on technical skills, on communication skills, and customer service. That's how nations are built. So, when we go in to do the design and the planning, it's very few of us. For a very magnificent, powerful, complicated process, it wouldn't take 100 of us to do it. But when you go to build it, it takes thousands and thousands and thousands of people. That's where we need to think radically how we shape our country. So after many failed attempts of speaking to some of the people that can move things, at some point we said we would do something ourselves. And that's what I want to share with you today. One thing, and I talk to my friends in diaspora, and they're very excited what we're doing. And what I have told them is, it's not just the giving of the money. It's the giving of the time to mentor, to coach, to serve as a resource people to make it work. I want to share one personal experience. The first time I brought my children to Nigeria, my sister lives in Port Harcourt. My wife was there. She had a big, reasonable supermarket. But I observed, every time she comes in the morning, she said, we have 4 kids. She said, what would you like for breakfast? Oatmeal. What would you like for this? And she said, go and get it in the store. Go and get it. One day I said, hey, my sister, are you keeping account? Don't worry, this is the place. Put your mouth aside. After that, I asked, I said, how would you know if your servers are doing the same? And I said, by the way, do you have an account? How much you took? And I said, you're going down. She said, God forbid. And eventually she went down. And I said, you don't know how to control inventory. You don't know how to understand revenue from costs. You don't know what profit means. And therefore you have eaten your seed money. It is not the devil that did it. At some other point, she said, brother, can we start business? I said, no. You mean, do you want handout? I can give you. But we can't start business without understanding the principle of running a business. So to acquire skills, then the next one is to understand the risk taking, is to understand the capital, is to understand how to manage people, is to understand customer service. So I'd like now to bring it down to, after this many times of trying to get the government, in fact, that sometimes Pat and I talked about how do we open up a vocational school. I was in Atlanta once and somebody came to work for me, he's Hispanic. And I found out that that man can do small electrical work. And he can do plumbing. He can do carpentry. I asked him, I said, where did you learn all this? He said, the school that we went to before we came prepared them to come into the country. He said, they teach you those as basics. So you choose the line that you want to go to. If you want to go to building systems, you get all those basics. We don't have that. And so when people leave from here to come to abroad, and they are not sufficiently engaged, they are dishwashers, they are taxi drivers. And I'm here to say we can change that. And that's what the professor is saying that we do. But let me tell you what we did 4 years ago. We decided to put some seed money, and we made it 2 conditions. One is that we will provide seed money for people to do vocational training, but there ought to be people managing them, and that the seed money to learn the skill is free. If you want to go on to become an entrepreneur, it's not free. We will now teach you the principles of how you do that. So the first time we took in 20 people, 3 electricians. We took in, they call them, seamstress and tailors, but they like the word fashion designers. So we took 7 men, 7 women. We took in 5 people that did laptop and cell phone repairs. But the whole idea is that when we train you, we want that to be a marketable skill. We don't want you to be on the street. So we took all of these folks. For that time, all the electrical folks, I met with the chief electrical, the man they are learning from. And he said 4 years. And I said, no, show me the curriculum. We went back and forth, put it at 3 years. And we did that. So what is the training? We created a Zoom meeting where we watched the progress and talked to them. In fact, we had somebody else that we gave little change who goes to inspect that the people that are working are really there. You would say, does that make sense? Because what happens the day they don't have transport money, or something happened, or there was fight, you don't see them. But we push them through, and they finished that. We come to the next series. The question becomes now, in fact, I know the young man who was doing the electrical. When I visited after 1 year and 3 months, he says, "Okay, I have really great news." And I said, "What is it?" He said, "I can wire the whole house now." And I said, "Good, but don't wire yet." I said, "Learn a little bit more before you wire." There are safety and all that. But we got them through, we learned things. And we have very good news. That same young man, when we went 6 months to his graduation, he comes back, he's very verbose, very excited. He says, "I am almost done." And I said, "Yes." He said, "But in my spare time, I learned through, instead of going to YouTube and play, I use it to learn how to do air conditioning." And I said, "That's marvelous." He said, "Now, I want to learn solar installation and repairs." And I said, "We will train you." So when we leave, we're launching the next cohort. And who are those? There will be 3 electrical paneling installation and repairs. There will be auto mechanics. The guy actually an electrician. So we took 3 electricians. I estimated 35% success rate going in. But it came up a lot much higher. One of the electrical guys dropped out to go to university to a point. After a while, the other young man said, "He's borrowing money from me now because he can't make up." And he comes back to say, "Can we get back into the program?" And I said, "Not until next time." Because not everyone needs to go to university education. But I learned through walking to Parsons Spring to Hub, I can come in, we can do the master design, we can do all of those later, but it takes great electricians. It takes great artists to put all of those in place. So I'm asking, and as you go in, think about building that skill. What is the next group that we're going now? So when they finished, I went back, and that's where the business comes in. 3 young ladies, they were doing well. And I said, "Let's talk about," he said, 3 of them said, "We have bought our own sewing machines." And I said, "Really, how did you get it?" He said, "While we were working towards our own, last years, we were doing sewing by the side. And that's helped us to get through our sewing." And I said, "Good." And he said, "Now we want stores where we can buy." I said, "Okay, each of you want a store?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Have you thought about 4 of you joining together and own a store first? And as you make money, you can now support opening up other stores." That's where the mentoring and coaching comes in and said, if each of you buy a store, you will not buy it when there is big traffic. You want to find a particular location. You know, after that message, they didn't buy the store, they were sewing in their places. But today, one of those folks have now her own store, have 2 machines, have now an apprentice. So we went back to the group that were supporting them, and we started teaching building wealth within the community to a point. Said, you have an elementary school, a secondary school, a nursing school, they all require uniform. Have you thought about bringing these people to be part of the group that make their uniform? He said, that's a great idea. They talked to the principal. They didn't force him or her. They gave samples. Out of the 12 people that graduated from sewing, they asked, can anyone that wants to volunteer to be tested, do so. 4 volunteered, a man and 3 ladies. And they sewed it beautifully. So now they are into now making school uniform. And I told the folks, I said, when they make those uniforms, they sell it. They bring part of the money back to you. The principle of money is that you want it to circulate within your unit a few times before it escapes. And I said, what about the weddings and the funeral where you make all uniforms? Have you thought about that? So inside that ecosystem now, they are beginning to build wealth. I say that to say it's possible that we start. And now we are getting into the panelists, the master trainers. We stood and said to them, do you understand that you can build a business a little bit more? How about now growing to a point, if you need, we work together, and you have an electrical store and parts, because that's part of what the challenge is. So there is great opportunity to build, and we don't have to wait and speak to all His Excellencies to make that happen. We can start small. And I'm finding out that some of my friends in the diaspora was coming in. When we came last time to meet, I invited one of my friends in Houston. He didn't know that this work was going on. And we sat down and they were interviewing the next series of people. And there was a particular young lady. Actually, she's a girl. She looked so young. I kept wondering, why is she there? At some point, I couldn't resist it. I asked her, how old are you? She says, 12. And I paused. I said, aren't you supposed to be in school? I was expecting an answer, I have no one to pay my fees. That was the answer I was expecting. And I already had a response, we can help you. He said, sir, no, I am in school, SS2 or XS1. He said, I'm in school. And I said, then what do you want to do with this? She said, I want to learn this skill on the side as I grow. I'm very interested. Later on, the coordinators called me aside and said, this young, she's 12. She is the oldest. Her father is a pastor, not barely paid. She is worried about where the next meal comes. And she wants to be do this to take care of her family at 12. My friend broke down. So there are opportunities to intervene and to help. I know we are running out of time, but let me summarize it very quickly. Is that skills acquired and deployed correctly build nations. I'm not here I have 5 degrees, so I'm not here knocking on college education, no. But I'm saying that there ought to be a proportionate distribution of people that design, the creative class, people that build, people that maintain. That we need that, and every growing nation needs that. When we build skill acquisition, I want us to think about the next phase. People talk a lot in the diaspora, we have many mixed feelings, and many, misery loves company. And we talk a lot about what's wrong in the country. There are a lot of things that are good. But one of the things that was once bad was a friend of mine here in Lagos. Pat knows him. He built good mansion. They had electrician do all the work, put all the sockets. And when they came in from overseas to put it and put in to plug in, there was no power. And it turned out that that man did not wire the place. And he has gone. And he didn't do it to one person. He didn't do it to two. That was gone. Till today, I don't know whether the man didn't have skills, or he was just a thief, or he took the money and he moved on. But Nigeria has great opportunities. Nigeria has great opportunity to be a great nation. But we cannot do that when the young ones are on the street and when there are low-hanging fruits to help them. And so our campaign is that we all can do something to help acquire the skills and deploy it appropriately. Thank you so much.
Mr. Puta Obi, I follow you a lot. I don't know where to start from, because really 5 minutes is not enough. But probably because I flew all the way from the Gambia, you will double my time. But anyway, first let me start with Pat. Happy birthday to you too. Pat, we knew each other about 30-something years ago. We share a lot in common. Probably we were born on the same day, that's why. Entrepreneur, activist. We were in Wharton together, Harvard Business School. We roamed around the world when we were young, advocating for the things that we're responsible for now. And I don't think it was any accident that those of us who were there were put together, because Wole Edun was one of us, Ken Oforiatta, the finance minister in Ghana. And we've had quite a lot of my colleagues then, my friends who went into politics, and I refused to go into politics. So, yes, I think enough introduction was done about me. And I tell people all the time, I do a lot of public speaking these days, but I tell people that, all of you know my uncle. And I'm sure everybody in this room do know my uncle. Talk to my uncle, he will tell you everything about me. And that's Uncle Google. So I will not waste my time telling you about myself, or my auntie YouTube. So I am a public speaker and I am an influencer now. Actually, I have a lot of following, and so do follow me on social media. I have a TikTok account. So I think that's where the world is going. I mean, I dropped, chemistry at the age of 14 to choose woodwork. And today, that is history. I'm trying to build 1 million homes across the African continent. But I want to focus more on opportunities in Nigeria. And what I do, we were talking about entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is all about identifying challenges and turning them into opportunities. So, stepping into Nigeria, I came into Nigeria in 2010. But all along, I've been trying to get into Nigeria for obvious reasons. The reasons are that Nigeria is half the population of West Africa. So if I go hunting, why should I go and shoot a rabbit when there's an elephant? We all know that the elephant is Nigeria, and that's why everybody who is interested, in the business world to come to Nigeria. So in 2012, I was introduced to the governor then, Governor Rotimi Amechi. So I came in and yes, I had this dream of always wanting to scale up. Because in 2006, I was approached by the Gambian president then. He went to Khartoum and offered to host the African Union Summit. He had only 6 months. I took it up, built 52 villas furnished in 4 months. How it was done, that's for another day. But yes, focusing more in Nigeria and the opportunities that I see here. So I came in, and the governor asked me then, what do you need? I said, just land. So I didn't need any money. If you know Port Harcourt very well, there's a very controversial project standing there, the Rainbow Town. So I do PPP, but I don't ask for money because I use people's money. People are in demand for houses. They need houses. So when I stepped into Port Harcourt, my first apartment I rented was $55,000 a year. Because if you know Port Harcourt very well, I mean, coming out of the militancy and everything, you know, no builder will go there. So I stepped in. It was a challenge. So I went in for the opportunity. Oil and gas, you know, companies were moving back, you know, their staff into Port Harcourt. It was a huge opportunity. And we took up the Gulf Estate. It was about $170 million without any single penny from any government. And we developed it. We sand filled 850,000 cubic meters of sand to build on it. It's standing there. Now, challenges. You were quite right. You spoke about skills. Obviously, in Port Harcourt in 2012, I couldn't find the tradesmen. But there must be answers all the time. So I brought in 400 Senegalese and Gambians overland to Port Harcourt. Some of them are still there, intermarriage, which happens in Africa. You know, so that's history. Now, already 4 minutes gone. So let's talk about present day, what I do. So I have been in Gambia. The biggest city is Banjul, our capital city. Total area is about 300 hectares. My city, called the Tough City, is 500 hectares. So it's almost double the capital city. So in here, most recently, in November, everybody knows about rivers and its crisis. But I survived from, my project was between Ruti Ameki to Governor Nyeso Wike, and I'm still there. So if I can survive that fight at the time, I know how to manage political risk. So then the next thing is, most recently, I got called in October. Out of my contractors that were there, one thing I love about Nigeria, and this I want to tell the World Bank people who go on collecting data about, you know, ease of doing business. The best place to do business in Africa is Nigeria. The most hospitable people you find in Africa, I'm telling you as a foreigner, is Nigeria. Because I've lived here for almost now 15 years. So somebody called me, one of my contractors, Oga, look, I have opportunity. And one thing I like about the majority here are Nigerians, you Nigerians, that it is the network of Nigerians. They will tell you, you know, I have my cousin who was in class with somebody who was our neighbor. They'll find a link, is now the special advisor to the governor. So they will find a link to get something done. So I got called in October. They said, okay, you have to come back to Port Harcourt. By the way, I decided to retire at 60. But I couldn't because I have a passion for construction. So when this guy called me, okay, please, you know, the new governor wants to do something with housing. So, but I just wanted to send them away. I said, look, me, I'm not coming back if you don't give me anything less than 1,000 hectares. So I thought they wouldn't come up with it. Next thing I got was, okay, he said, yes, come. So I jumped on the plane, came in November, signed an MOU 2nd of December, came back to set up my office there. The governor said, you cannot go, I have to do something. 20th of December, we laid the foundation stone. Now we're on site with 40 contractors, and our first sample houses will be ready in March. Wow. Only in Nigeria. Great opportunities. If you walk out, last one, if I had to walk out, it's 7 minutes already. One thing I tell, sorry, and I know you're right behind me, but you know, guys, look, let's look around. My dress code changed because it's Nigeria. My daughter works in England. She's a lawyer. She orders her stuff through Instagram from Nigerians that he had never met. Burna Boy, if you follow music, because me, my heart is young. 12 years ago, he was in Port Harcourt doing parties. Today, he is one of the biggest in the world. Nigerian music is buzzing everywhere. So I think on that note, I'm just asking that, look, let's believe in this country. There are opportunities here. If I were to step out here, I give this example all the time, and ask for a spare part in MD-11, a Nigerian will bring it for you. You will pay a price, but it will come. So for me, I don't think I'm going to move away from Nigeria.
Nigeria is home, and I love this place. Pat, happy birthday again, and thanks for being part of this.
Well, as you'll be told, I am not Dr. Limo Ikbea, but I'm in the position to speak about him because we are not just friends. I'm a lawyer by training. My law firm offers legal services to the Lee Group, and it's in that capacity that I got to know him very intimately, and we are friends, and also from the same part of this country. He would have been here personally, but he went to Milan, which I'm sure probably is aware for a meeting. And you know, entrepreneurs, when there are opportunities, they move on. From Milan, last night he called me, sorry Matthew, I will not be able to come. Can you stand in for me? I'm heading to London. I said, what do you want me to say? He said, there's nothing you don't know about me. So just go there and tell them what you know about me. So I will say as much as I know about him. Dr. Limo Ikbea, COM, JP, and his businesses is a good case study in resilience. This was a man that was born into poverty in the ghettos of Warri, and I'm sure those of us who know about Warri will know what I'm talking about. He sold firewood as a young man. He carried pans on the streets of Warri. Then eventually he landed a job with one of the construction companies that built the Warri refinery when it was being built. And they liked him, and he did his job so well that they engaged him. And by the way, he didn't have the benefit of a good education in the sense that the parents couldn't pay his school fees. He used to tell me the story of how he would get into the classroom, and when it is time to have lunch, while he's in the dining hall, they will call me and say, hey, you have not paid your fees, go out. He will walk out crying, back to his parents. And there was nothing he could do. But today, that gentleman has had the privilege of attending Harvard Business School because he's a man who believes in self-development. Now, the Lee Group today has about 9 dependent companies spanning aviation services, manufacturing, oil and gas, exploration and production, travels and tours, just to mention retail trade, just to mention the few. But the flagship is the Lee Engineering and Construction Company, which is started 32 years ago in a 40-foot container when he decided to engage. He said, I was working with the white men and I see what they do. The 40-foot container, which he still has in his premises today in Warri. And today, like I said, that company has grown into a conglomerate with offices in Nigeria, in Italy, and in the US. Employing over 1,000 persons directly across borders. Now, what are his selling points? What are the issues or what are the things that define Dr. Lee? We did not call the Lee Way. Of course, I'm on the board of the Lee Group, so I know what I'm talking about. Dr. Lee, they call it the Lee Way. Lee, as in his first name, and Way. That's how the staff christened it. Offers effective leadership and usually management skill. Like I said, he is not afraid to learn. He's always prepared to learn because of his businesses. And then, like I told you, he's been to Harvard for the executive management program. He's a man of great vision and tenacity. And I used to describe him as having the vision of an eagle. So when the eagle is in flight, and he sees an object of interest in a mile and a half away, if he targets it, he gets it. That is what Dr. Lee is. And also is a man of tenacity. Also just like the eagle. When the eagle is in flight and he falls or he gets into turbulence, it adjusts his wing, glide higher, and move on, while other small birds will collapse. So that's what he is. And that is how his staff and his management staff said. He's a man of profound faith in God. Because he believed that apart from his father, who kept encouraging him on, God was his greatest motivator. He believed very well in God. And he believed in the core human values of integrity, trust, and teamwork.
his business dealings. And he has very strong personal values. At 67, he turned 67 in December. Hard work and discipline are his watchwords. He can work for almost 20 hours in a day, non-stop. Self-sacrificing, very smart guy, goal-oriented, but he's not lousy, he's not noisy about his achievements. He's also a very good manager of resources. He also has a very robust branding and networking skills. I think that is key to survive in business. And he's very loyal and trustworthy to his staff and his friends and business partners. Because that is key in business. No matter how good you are as an entrepreneur, you cannot be trusted. You are not a man of integrity. Nobody would like to do business with you, especially when you are dealing with foreigners, people from other countries. That is why he's able to establish businesses today in Milan and in Houston, Texas. In fact, he just acquired another business concern in the US. And of course, you know what that means. Before somebody from that axis would like to do business with you, they would like to do the background check on you. 5 minutes, but that's a lot. And like I said earlier, he's a man of great humility, like compassion. Because of the sufferings, the vicissitudes of life that he went through while he was growing up, he set up a very robust foundation. And I have the privilege of chairing that foundation, where he's giving back by educating many Nigerians, irrespective of where you are from, not only within the country, but beyond the shores of this country. Because he believes that education is key. And he remember very regularly how he suffered because his parents couldn't pay his fees. And another thing that is going for him is that he has the ability to search out experienced mentors. He's not a Mr. Know-all and technical skills in the industry, the various businesses that he is engaged in. He looks out for the very best. He pays them very well because I'm also engaged in the employment of some of these staff. Pay them very, very well that they will have no choice but to put in their best. The third and most important thing he also is visioning is that they want to take the elite group to the public by listing so that the company will survive in. And he keeps telling us that, well, you know that most of these businesses that you see today that you call multinationals here in Nigeria, they started as one-man business over there. So it's a one-man business, but it's also a multinational because it has branches across the borders. So those are the things that are going well for Dr. Lee, and that is what makes it tick that we have the Lee group today. I thought I should just share those few points with you because I have only 5 minutes. The point that was made by the first Lee speaker was the issue of self-employment, particularly for the young ones. Start looking inward. Don't believe that because you have the certificate, you must get employed. You should be prepared to be an employer of labor. I have a tenant in my house who studied at MIT in the US. A young couple for that matter. They've been in my house for about 15 years. And I believe they have got their own houses. They were working in share. They resigned. They said, we don't want this paid job. We want to be our employer and myself employed. The lady you find her in Balogun market every day. The product of MIT, the two of them actually went to MIT, and the husband is also making wage because they are self-employed and they are employers of several persons. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
To me on his birthday, wishing you the best. Well, he started by saying that they had a case study on my organization, which I founded in 1980. We are 44 years now in business in Nigeria. And I'm so happy I saw some students in our midst. I'm really happy about that. This lecture or this conference is really about you and the one below you, because if somebody is going to gain anything from this talk here today, it's really more of you people. And this also brings to mind of influence. You can be influenced in a very positive way, just like if you don't do it right, you can also be influenced negatively. So I hope you take the best part of that mentoring that you get from this conversation today. When the chairman started, he made reference to some of the challenges of our society, and that he actually made reference to Maduka, who has done so well in his business, but he also said if he were in other climes of the world, maybe his business would be a different ball game today. So I may come back to that if I have the time. And then of course, Party told me, of course, talk about his dream for entrepreneurship in Nigeria, because he believes entrepreneurs, if you get it right, you can really make a country great. And he has been on this struggle path, but hopefully we'll get there one day. And then, and also, he also mentioned there could be ways to make this happen. Of course, this kind of discussion we're having today, bring intellectuals together, learn from them, share from their knowledge, and of course, government should be made to do more. Government could be made to do more. For example, I started my business, as I said, 44 years ago, and I started by representing a manufacturing company, which was then owned by an Italian government. And my dream was really we should be able to produce some of those parts here in Nigeria. But I tell you, it was just not easy. And the main reason because the government support has never always been there. And up to this moment, it's still not there. And I think this is where the focus really is. What can we do to get the government to be interested to support local production? It's not something that will happen on its own. It has to be deliberate. It has to be intentional. You have to work on it. It's not, I know Mr. A, I know Mr. B. No, it has to come from the people. And the atmosphere has to be set. This is unfortunately what we are not doing yet in the country. And that is why we have lone great people. And we can't sustain this. You have rich, you have everything. When you drive out of your street, what you meet facing you is poverty. And you think you are successful? I don't think so. We are not successful. So that is why sometimes I don't like to talk about whether I am rich or not. No, I am not really rich because I'm in the midst of very poor people. And this is not good for enough of our nation. But let me tell you also that, yes, I don't want to speak and say, look, yeah, I think Dr. Herienta, when you're going into business, talk of how you can make impact, not necessarily the money. And I think that is the story of ACO Group today. When I had the opportunity to be sent abroad by the federal government, and I felt the federal government has done something for me. And when I came back, the oil and gas industry was about foreigners. If you are not a foreigner, you cannot participate in that space. And my dream then for my vision from starting the business was, look, let me prove that Nigerians can do it in the oil and gas space, in the technological space. I read mechanical engineering at the Petroleum Training Institute. And from all of that background, I said, look, let me just prove that Nigerians can do it. And truly, that has been our vision. And that, for that reason, we have been able to survive the last 44 years. But I tell you something of interest. And somebody, one of the speakers also said, look, turn challenges to opportunities. And this is exactly what happened to us in year 2007. During the Niger Delta crisis, it was terrible. The foreign firms had to evacuate our country. They left. And that was when we knew that we had potentials in ACO. What then happened, we were more or less like apprentices to the major manufacturing firm we were representing. And along the line, we made commitment to train some Nigerians. And these Nigerians were learning. But I didn't realize that they learned so much that during the crisis, the expatriates left. These Nigerians ran the Ajib gas plant, which was very sensitive, for about 8 months with no interruption. And this was really great. And after that, we were commended. But guess what? When these people came back, instead of commending us, their own was, why would you do this? Why would you do this? What does it mean? Could this plant have been made to run down? And instantly, because they were paying for, we were paying expatriates when they come here. Now, they decided to poach 19 of my staff instantly. And that was enough to sink our company. But believe me, once you are an entrepreneur, you find solutions. And this is exactly what we did. We decided to say, okay, look, since this is the case, we need to develop our capability. With or without the foreign firm, we should be able to do it. And today, there was, before now, there was the case of only OEM can do some services in the oil and gas industry. Only OEM. If you are not welcome. We decided to put 5 years to develop a concept that can enable us work on original equipment using our skill and other ones we can get from outside. And by the grace of God, today, in the most prized enterprise of our nation today, in terms of manufacturing, in terms of foreign earning, is the Nigerian NLNG. And it's good enough, the person who made that energy to come to life, to power, is seated here with us, Don Etchebet, because he played a major role in that area. And today, by the grace of God, we are the Nigerian who is providing the main technical service to NLNG as far as the operation is concerned today. We are responsible for their turnaround maintenance, and this we have been doing the last 3 years, and it's been excellent report. So, and I think this is what we can learn if it's coming from your heart. But if you are being directed, it cannot be the same. So this is why I want to encourage the youth. Please learn something from this conversation today. You can do it, and you do it better. And then also learning from what Peter said, this skill, we need to scale it up. And this is exactly what we have not been doing in Nigeria. And for this reason, this is the phase we are in today in ACO. We are now trying to scale all of this up, that we can be called in Indonesia, in any other part of the world, because we have done it very well for an international organization. So if you can do it successfully, you can now be called elsewhere. So this is the message I want us to take from here. And for me, I have learned a lot listening to Prof and the two Profs here, and of course my cool panelists, please. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you a lot.
Thank you. Senior Pat, happy birthday. So my mind is just to listen and learn. I wasn't part of this. So I'll just say happy birthday to Pat and continue to learn. And I've learned a lot. I want to thank you very much. My only little contribution, which will be less than 2 minutes, is that I agree with Senior Alfred. There must be a deliberate government, fiscal and monetary policy to drive what we're talking about today. And I will stand by dismantling corruption. Corruption kills 3 things that makes a society. It kills entrepreneurship. Nobody thinks in a corrupt country. There's no entrepreneur in a corrupt country. Any country where people in government are richer than businessmen, manufacturers, it will not survive. Government people all over the world have lived and established a small business in the UK. Every year, I get a letter from the Queen and the Prime Minister because my business is turning over £5 million. In my place, in all my business in Nigeria, I've just gotten a letter from a local government chairman. He doesn't care. When I was the governor, and I'm happy because Kairos is here. As a governor, I insist if you must build a factory, I must come and visit you. You should not come to see the governor. And anybody who builds a factory, I must give you money to build your road. Innocent build factory, I laid foundation.
for that factory. I gave him money to build the road. And I said, what you're going to manufacture will be your first customer. And I told him I ordered 1,000 vehicles from him. Paid him up front for more than 1 year. Even when I told people that they are going to build schools, from buses for schools, cars for traditional rulers, cars for this, security, they told me, how can I order something? They don't see the brake is going to fail, this is going to happen, people are going to die. I said, well, those who remain after those who died will continue. But this is the man, that's why that place is standing. Shikasin built a factory, I gave him money to do. I can tell you ironically, 3 Kutiks, same thing. Whenever I want to do their road, our people will estimate 5 times the price they will give me. Because I go to them and say, how much will it cost you for this? Like Kutiks, while our people estimated 200 and something million for his road, he gave us only about 40 something million. And people say, oh, he's not an engineer. I said, the man who needs the road gave us 40. We who don't need the road, we are taking his 200 and something thousand. Why don't we give him 40,000? If he works for that road is still standing. The one we are doing for 200 and something have all failed. So, government, we must dismantle criminality. It kills professionalism. Nobody is a professional. You saw my text my tweet last week. I was in Nsukka to campaign. Somebody who made a first class, who left university a year after me, who made a first class, became a professor, was happy to be a professor. His salary in 2010 is the equivalent of $2,700. His same salary today cannot buy $250. He bought a car after lecturing for 1 year, but he cannot even buy tire today. And he was asking me if he can become a say to a member of House of Rep that I came to campaign for. And I said, how? He said, he's paid 400,000. The essay to the man is paid 12 million. No country can survive with that. There's no entrepreneurship, there's no skill with that. You can't. Corruption kills hard work. So we must dismantle the corruption and get people for their talent, their skill, their energy to earn what people's talent and hard work must give them the opportunity. And I believe that when we're listening here, we work. But we also need to get government involved. What we're saying here now, there's no government person involved. They don't listen. They don't go for lecture. I've been in that space, so I can tell you, nobody in government goes to where they lecture. It's a waste of time. They go to where they party. Simple. And no country works like that. They should be listening to the skills. They should be respecting the Koskaris, the friends, the everything. The keynote speaker is from the States. You know what it means. People come to visit you. Government people, governors invite you. Yeah, no, you go and beg for governor, queue up, stay in their waiting room for hours. When you have business to run, that should be reversed so that things can work. I believe it's a great country. There's a great opportunity. But first we must dismantle the criminality, call government first. And then we can reverse it. Thank you, Chairman, for the opportunity.
The chairman of this occasion, the keynote speaker, and the other panelists. I also want to use this opportunity to congratulate our precious friend, my brother Pat, for this landmark of his age. I remember meeting Pat when he was the MD of Volkswagen, and we're all in our 30s because he's also my contemporary, but a little bit older than me. But let's make it very simple. Nothing changes without leadership. Nothing improves without leadership. Nothing progresses without leadership. What we are suffering in our country that is obvious to every one of us is a problem of leadership. If the head is correct,
the fish actually spoil from the head. If the head is correct, the rest of the body will be correct. Our story is simple, but something a little way out of this world that you can almost call it incredible story, but it's real. It's like a paradox, something you almost, give anybody a chance if he doubts it. But it's a reality. A young man that lost his father at the tender age of 4 with no formal education, but with sheer determination that whatever you set your mind to do, if you have the right mental attitude, you will achieve it. I thank God for a mother, a godly mother that really made me to believe in myself and encouraged me that I can go places in the world. And I believe my mother, because courage is everything. I became an incurable optimist, helping her to hawk on the street and work for my uncle. Did apprenticeship for 6.5 years, which I believe is one of the best university any young man will attend to in life. You can never lead if you are not willing to be led and learn. That is because that apprenticeship taught me unprecedented discipline that no university would have, been able to give me. Because this is an arrangement where there is no contractual agreement. So you need to be at your best behavior, because any single mistake you made, the man will put you in the next bus and send you back to the village. There's no court to appeal your case. That 4 years or 5 you spend is wasted, and that is the end of it. So I keep on telling people, I haven't seen any young man that successfully complete his apprenticeship for 5 years or 6 years that were never successful. I haven't seen one. Most time I do challenge people that if a young man that went to college come out and you give him 10 million naira and give 1 million to a young man that succeeded to do apprenticeship for 5 years, give them 5 years, the 1 million naira guy will overtake the 10 million naira guy. Because while people were doing apprenticeship, many people laugh at us and believe that we didn't have a formal education. But in apprenticeship, we are taught practical way to do business. Everything you require for business is part of what you are. We do it administrator, we did accountancy in informal way. We did purchasing. Everything they taught you in university, we learned them, but no certificate was issued. So when we come out, we are practitioners. We are doing the things some people have gone to Harvard to go and learn. These are the things we do on our daily basis. So in 1976, my uncle gave me 200 naira, and everybody thought that that was the end of the life. But I assured him that in 5 years, I want him to assess me and see what I could do out of it. And to the glory of God, by sheer hard work, today, we do not just represent 8 brands of automobile in Nigeria. We also assemble Ford today in Nigeria. We diversify this business to get into the real sector where we are playing in value chain agriculture of our agriculture. We had 3,000 hectares of land. Peter has just left, but I would have just want to give him the credit, because this happened under his administration as a governor in Anambra State. I started investing in that land 30-something years ago because I've always believed that this is what I'm going to retire into, into agriculture. By the time I went back to take possession of the land, I became a captive market to the villagers. Everybody want to clear me like a container. I'm putting a price every day. Peter said, the only way you can succeed, just give government 5%, whatever it is, so that we can say we are partners, become government something. I said, in fact, not 5%, please take 10%. Let's go ahead so that I can take possession of my land. I actually have certificate of occupancy issued by Emeka Omerowa for those years. The good thing that is here today is that We plant rice in 3,000 hectares of land, harvest rice, mill it and send it to our mill it and package it and sell it to the market. By starting a business with 200 naira, today we do not just run business in Ghana, in Ivory Coast, in Gabon, in Sierra Leone, but also a company, functionable company in Japan, manufacturer representative, no more buying through middlemen, but become direct dealer to the OEMs. And this is all to the glory of God, and goes again to share, to show that with determination and leadership in place, there's no mountain that is insurmountable, and there's no hill that is too high to climb. God bless you. I wait to take other patients later. Bye.
Thank you very much, sir.
I have to give a special mention to the King's College boys I see in the crowd, because I'm a KCOB. So it's great to see young minds here also learning, and we look to see you on this table in the next 20 years as well, or sooner. So, you know, when I thought about the words to say for today, there were three things that I said that I must share with this esteemed audience. So one is just a brief description of what I do and how I got to do what I do, the challenges and opportunities I've seen from doing what I do, and then my own little 2 cents on where I think the opportunities are and what a young entrepreneur is looking for. So I run a company called Lydia, and we do loans to small businesses. And the whole idea is you apply today, money your account tomorrow, using technology. And the power of this business, we've now disbursed over 35,000 loans in this country, over $100 million worth of loans. And the fact that always surprises everybody is the write-off rates. So the write-off rates are 1%, which is typically shocking for most people when you hear that. So we're lending to retailers, entrepreneurs across different value chains. And the idea came from my time at Jumia. So I co-founded and used to run Jumia in this country. And one of the biggest pain points that we saw was there were lots of small businesses who had a product or an idea that was selling, but they would always hit a ceiling when it came time to scale their business. So I'm selling something, it's working for me, I want to do 10% more, 20% more, where do I go? And I go to a bank, and most banks will say, look, go and bring collateral. But in today's age, how many people have land or cash or machinery to put against a loan? Very little. And we said to ourselves, there's so much data now around these small businesses. It must be possible to analyze this data, digitize it, and use it as a way to assess small businesses. And that's what started our journey. And I'm not the only one in this space of digital lending. There must be over $2 billion a year worth of digital credit disbursed today in Nigeria through fintechs, increasingly banks. So, and for a lot of these institutions, the write-off rates are not too far from our write-off rates, which shows that with opportunity, Nigerians can build great businesses, as you can see from this distinguished set of panelists. The one challenge that we saw all the days from Jumia is the development of value chains. So with Jumia, it was retailing goods using an online platform to customers. But the difference versus the US or Europe is, in Africa, you're having to build your own warehousing, your own customer service, your own marketing, and it's difficult for one entity to do all of that. So, and we're seeing the same thing in financial services, because for any lender to grow, you need digital credit, you need debt collection, you need customer education. And that's where I see the opportunity coming. Building value chains so that all these success stories are not just a one-off. It can be for any person who has an idea, the right spirit and integrity, and wants to plug in, they can also grow their business. And when I think about as a young entrepreneur, if I could give my 2 cents to the powers that be, what would I say? I think of a country as a business. And the ultimate question becomes, if you have very scarce resources, you don't want to aim those resources everywhere. You want to pick. And so as a business, what is Nigeria's strategy? If you look at China aiming to become the world's manufacturing floor, Bangladesh, garments, India, IT industry, And this clarity is important because that clarity then means policy can be crafted, incentives can be crafted, investment can go in one direction, even how we educate our young people around a particular sector. So the world now starts to say Nigeria is the best at X, versus attempting to aim our arrow across different places. I echo the comments of the panelists here to say I'm very optimistic on Nigeria. I think we have a very unique asset that we are not, for lack of a better word, equipping and weaponizing in today's age, which is our young people. Our young people are English speaking, they are hardworking, they are literate, and they are digitally savvy. And in today's world of online tools, we heard the speakers talk about YouTube and Instagram and artificial intelligence. This is a labor force that the world is seeking to do a variety of different services. So I am investing my time here, I'm investing my dollars here, my family is here, I'm excited about Nigeria. But it's also clear that as a young person, there needs to be some clarity and direction on the strategy of the country so that all of us in this room can key in and help to go to the next level. Thank you very much.
So we're talking on post-trade and action, and there's nowhere we can delve in deeply into that without talking about the Nigerians in the Diaspora Chamber of Commerce. The Nigerians in the Diaspora Chamber of Commerce came to being during my leadership as the chairman of Nigerians in the Diaspora in the United States from 2017 to 2020. So we put up kind of goals to achieve during that administration. And one of them was a financial institution. I told the team that it could be anything. It could be a bank, it could be a microfinance, it could be a chamber of commerce, you know. And the Chamber of Commerce, you know, took its place and we started. But I saw that there were no much interest. But I still decided, you know, we need to push this. I think this is good for the economy. I think this is good for the people. I think, you know, working together, we've all been talking about collaboration. I don't think there was any speaker today who did not say anything about collaboration, because it's key to the developments that we actually want to see as a people and as a nation. And we continue this, and that's you know, how we came about the Chamber of Commerce. It is not just a Nigerian thing. Yes, it is Nigerians in the Diaspora Chamber of Commerce, but it's not just a Nigerian-only organization. It's a global organization. People ask me, oh, why is it Nigeria and all that? I said, because it's Nigeria. We have U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Do you ask them why it is U.S. Chamber of Commerce? They are all over the world. What are they doing? You know, building interest, building benefits for the United States. When are we going to begin to do that for our own nation? This organization was founded because I see that Nigerians all over the world, we are there doing great things for other nations. There is nothing bad about that, but it's just that there's something bad when we don't think of repatriating those knowledge, repatriating those expertise, you know, thinking of giving back to the nation that actually started us. I tell people, I left this country when I was in my 30s. So that means Nigeria already gave me what I needed in life to be who I'm created to be. You know, America did not make me, Nigeria made me. And anywhere you're living in life, you just continue to improve yourself. So we already made. And I also hear that we always say developing nations, and Nigeria happens to be one of those developing nations. But you see that the developing nations are the ones developing and sustaining the development of the developed nations. And I don't know, you know, how that sounds. I am from the developing nation, but my talents, my resources, human and natural, is used to develop the developed nation and continue to sustain them. So I saw that, you know, there should be, you know, a niche. We need to bridge the gap between the developing and the developed nation, so that things, you know, will work the way it's supposed to be. And it all boils down to building human capital. Today we hear there's insecurity, there's poverty, there's this and all that. Insecurity has a root cause. And until we look into those root causes and try to provide solutions to those root causes, we'll continue to go in the circles and continue to talk about our problems, and we'll never have a solution when we don't work at it. So one of the things, there are 4 pillars that the Chamber of Commerce is looking to achieve. And when we achieve it, we believe it's those things that prospers people and prospers the nation. When people begin to prosper, then the nation begins to prosper, because it takes people. For this room today, we have a thought leader who has brought us together. And without the team working with this thought leader, this kind of organization will not be put in place. So even in leadership, for those entrepreneurs that have spoken today, the way we treat people, the kind of skills, the kind of benefit, the kind of values we add in the life of those that are working for us, An organization called me a couple of years ago to come and do something for them here in Nigeria. And I came very excited because they said it was about the citizen. And when I came, I saw that it wasn't really about the citizen. Yet the title was big. The influence would have been good, but I turned it down because I cannot put my face in something that does not represent human being rightly and all that. So human capital development is very key to us. And second is the private sectors. The private sector is the engine of development in every economy. We've heard our big brothers talk about, or my big brothers, and not big brothers to some of you, my big brothers and uncles, talk about how the great things they're doing and all that. So it's all about private sectors, and one of the things we want to do is, advance the private sectors. Then sustainable collaboration, working together as a team. So many big buildings, big organizations you see in UK, in United States, and all those developed nations that you and I are developing, but we still remain developing, right? They are all built by 2 people, 3 people, 10 people coming together, to form that collaboration. And I say sustainable collaboration because we want to start it and want to see sustainability in whatever we are doing. And the last but not the least is diversity and inclusion. The organization is not just for the bourgeois, it's not just for the big. I want to be able to touch the lives of those selling akara, brand them, teach them what to do, how, brand strategies and every other thing that is needed to be able to grow. The barber and the rest of it, so many have talked about customer service, very, very important. So it's not just owning a business. How do you continue to grow? How can you grow to become Apple? How can you become, Samsung? How can you become, even our brothers here, Koskaris and the rest of it? There are things that they have done over the years. It talks about character. It talks about, those soft skills, empathy and all that is lacking in so many of us in Nigeria. As the former chairman of Nigerians in diaspora, I work with a lot of youths in Nigeria, both in person and also virtually, women groups and all that, So there's a lot of character that needs to be built. It's just something that just happened recently. This organization will be launched in Nigeria in March this year, and we decided to, look into so many event places. I will not mention them. And we wanted to do it last year, but a lot of things, logistics and all that, I said, okay, let's move it. And because we did not do it with this organization last year, now we are back, we are ready, and they won't pick up the phone. Of course, he doesn't know the business, so he does not understand the character behind what he's doing, and all that. I am going to reach out to the boss of the boss. I don't want them fired, but I want to train them by myself. So why are we here? I'm talking, we've brought a lot of people doing business, doing great things to our platform. We've been meeting virtually, and my big brother and mentor, Professor Utomi, has been, was one of them who has spoken on our platform. And he said, yes, we need to do this. And, he's talking about the apprenticeship. How can we begin to, bring people together, to train them, And one of the information, the example he gave is, you see the way the Igbos do it and all that. I said, yes. And, lived in Lagos, lived in Benin. I know there are other people who do that. So that's what we want to do, apprenticeship, bringing people together, nurturing them, giving them the skill sets that is needed, putting together the financial, the financial well-being, how to promote them, how to, to move forward. And I see that, it's good that I'm even talking because I didn't have a lot to talk because, everything that we need to kick this off all the people that needed to do that, has already done. So the call of action is, we're inviting everyone, business leaders, stakeholders, to join us in this transformative journey as, we put together young entrepreneurs to be able to help us, our nation, help businesses, and help the nation to be transformed. Thank you very much.
My question is this: we've spoken about skills acquisition, and it's good in theory, but in practice there are hurdles that must be navigated. And I'd like to ask Prof. Now, in Nigeria, we have the hurdle of policy and regulations. The CEO of Lydia would know that in the tech space today, there are regulations, constraining people from, going far. So how do we cross this hurdle of policies and government regulations? And secondly, there's also the issue of finance, right? We have venture capitalists funding businesses in the tech space, but now we're saying that we should go back to the farm, do agriculture. You hardly find people funding this space. Maybe a few of them like Farm Credit and the like. So how do we also navigate the hurdle of finance if you want to, go into the agri space, agri-tech to be specific? Thank you.
The last question she asked is very important. I've been teaching for 23 years, and I think that in the last 5 years, I've had to start with mindset. The soft skills make or break everything else. If someone's mind isn't transformed, and you give the person management skills, all kinds of things, they will use it negatively. It's so important to work on self-leadership and how people's minds work. So I spend a lot of time doing a mind reset on being purpose-driven, and then helping them see that being purpose-driven actually, in fact, there's research that shows that purpose-driven companies make 3 times as much money as profit-driven companies. So it's very important. Many Nigerians have been educated in a warped way. The majority of the role models are not very good. So it's not surprising that people have to be reoriented. Now, regarding skills development, to be fair to the government, as it's Lagos State, there's a lot going on. One can now say, is it being well done, or are they following up enough? Because if you train a poor man only knows poor people. It's difficult for him to actually have access to markets. So those people who are trained have to be linked. So if, for example, I train people in construction skills training, you a good carpenter, you a good plumber, you a good tiler, those people will not come out of poverty, because if they come to my house or to your house, you will tell them no thank you. Why? Security concerns. Okay? But if I start a company and I say to all of you here, if you have any issues, we can fix it for you. You will very happily give me your card, and I can then send them to your homes to solve the problem, and then pay them a good salary. So it's important to understand that besides skills training, we need entrepreneurial orientation, values orientation. Okay, what's saying about self-leadership? We also need management training, and then we need access to markets before access to funding. The problem is that many times you think that funding will make people thrive. No. Even if I give you, it's like telling me I'm not a pilot, okay? If you give me $1 billion, I still can't fly a plane. If you make it 10 billion, I still can't fly a plane. So if I don't know how to run a business and you give me money, I will waste it. So training before funding, that's fundamental, okay? So skills, not enough. Mindset reorientation, management training, and then access to markets before access to funding, if you ask me. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Gentlemen, about community issues. One of the key values of an entrepreneur, I'll name 2, adaptability, innovation. So when I came into the Niger Delta, obviously in the Gambia, it's so peaceful that we never had those issues, but I had to learn. So that's what entrepreneurs do. So one of the things we did was to train the community boys as contractors. And today, in the Gambia, I have some community contractors, people who came from Okrika or Kujago, all those places now. They're no longer criminals or looking for money, but they're there building the houses themselves. So one of the sustainable development goals is about engaging the community. The community as stakeholders, and you must engage them. But may I just further, Prof, you said something about education. Time was too short, but we need to be bold in this continent. We must shy away from dealing everything that is Oyibo. Our educational curriculum must be changed. How do you balance the two? I mean, I ask this question all the time. That a young boy at the age of 8, 7, you can send him to a football academy because you think that football, that's where the money is. But you cannot send him to go and learn a trade. If we follow our tradition of sending these young people, picking up trade at very young age, so it changes their mentality, they make more money. In the Oyibo way, it's child labor. So no, we are educating them for something that they will just cash, they will make money. But we need to just shy away from change our curriculum. And we need to be bold about this. And this must be done by good political leadership. I'm glad that His Excellency said so. One of the things that he wanted to wipe out was first was corruption. But we must change. There is no norm in leadership. You know, we just think that the ways of leadership is best following what is European or what is American. Anytime they come with their jargons, we just follow them. But we must go back that, look, this is our problem. We have actually, in the figures, I collect a lot of data. In the Gambia, 400,000 kids are in school. That's almost 20% of our population. And guess what? At primary 6, after 6 years of schooling, half of them drop out. That's why we have all these young boys being criminal. We need to capture those people that are about to drop out and make sure they have a skill, and that will solve our problems.
Thank you very much.
The group in US called the 100-Men Black 12. Our motto is very simple. What they see, they become. And so when we deal with next generation, I think in terms of the skill acquisition, we need to elevate that and really show what it is. It's not only some electrician or a tiler. A tiler can become a supplier of tiles. An electrician can become owning electrical company in different places. So I think we need to explain that. But people have talked about the fundamental flaw in our education. Is this that everybody must have a degree. And no matter what the degree is to elevate every profession. The other part of it, the practical experience, when we started trying to get young people to come in, especially the men, they said, you will not get them. Why don't you have people doing tasks? Okay, they will never come. But as you probed it in, they said they will prefer to drive keke, which is true. But when they drive keke, at the end of the day, they get $500 naira or 1,000 naira. That solves the daily, that need. If we are going to do this, you really have to get into the needs. So when I talked to the guy that learned electricians, you are going to train them for 3 years. How much do you pay them? I'm training them. But what about if after the first year, they now serve as part of their journey people, and you give them pocket money? That's how we solve that. Some of them don't have transport money. You need to think about if they are making 2 drops to get to that school, they're not going to be in school unless someone thinks about how to get there. So if we're going to get this, it has to be a comprehensive look at the issue, think about the investment that needs to be made, and after those people are done, how do we guarantee that you don't take them for granted when they come to my house, whatever I want to pay? In the United States, for example, they have home advisors that essentially group all these artisans. They help them get to the market, because when I go to home advisor, I wanted to fix my pool, it gives you, they've screened them, they've screened their skill set. They send you 3 or 4 people that comes in, and they give you their quote. So we have to elevate that. How do you bring them into the market? How do you hold them accountable? And how do you train them? It takes time. It takes the government. But I'm here to say we don't necessarily have to wait for the government, as great as it is for them to come in. Can non-profit organizations and other places fill this gap until other things are done?
Thank you very much. Every time you deal with entrepreneurship students, they always talk about the problem in Nigeria is finance. And I always come back, it is not finance, it is creativity. And that just told us, just gave us a great example. I mean, with most of his buildings, he didn't go to a bank and get X billion. He just creatively dealt with the problem. I mean, you get people, you pre-sell houses, you don't jump and put all the money you have into infrastructure. As people see their building getting to the little level, are willing to pay the next level, and they finance you literally. And so that thinking, oh, I needed to have had $1 billion before I started this, is dealt with. But very quickly, point about neuroscience and all of that, it matters. Hetty talked about the mind as a person, you know, really, how do you achieve self-mastery? There's a lot of work going on, and I would like to encourage people to try and follow that work. On why people follow emotion more than rationality in public life and all kinds of things. There's a center at Harvard now run by a gentleman called Joshua Green, Center for Moral Cognition, that brings together neuroscience, psychology, and philosophy in trying to understand human behavior in some of these problems. And I think that if we understand people well, we can get around many of the challenges that entrepreneurs do have. But very importantly, we've got to solve their problem, just as, again, I think Mustafa just said, look at what the bottlenecks are, and I did also said it, and intervene in a way that facilitates. There's an approach, there's a tripartite approach to development. Conference in Nairobi in 1985, sponsored by the African Foundation, dealt with it. How does the public sector, the private sector, and the so-called NGO sector, if you want to call it that, back those days they called them private development agencies, PDAs. How do they collaborate to make progress? There are things that PDAs will do much better than the private sector. There are things that government will do much better. But there has to be a collaboration of all of these people in a holistic way, and that can solve many of these problems.
It echoes exactly what Prof just said, which is, for me, I think of government's role as clarity and a cohesive strategy, right? So if I think about different ecosystems in the world that seems to attract development and capital, we all know if you want to go to the hotbed of finance, you go to Wall Street in New York. And that clarity has now allowed for investments, talents, infrastructure, all concentrated in that one small part of the world. The same thing, we all know that if you want to make a world-class movie, you go to Hollywood, right? And all the actors, the producers, the movie studios can now coalesce around that. And to be honest, I would say the same thing has happened here in Nigeria. There's a very popular case study about Paystack, which sold for a few years ago for $200 million. And that's on the back of a lot of cohesive strategy from the Nigerian Central Bank over the last 15 to 20 years. Around agency banking, Nigeria has one of the most advanced banking infrastructure in the world. So it just says to you that when there's clarity, it means that investment can back that clarity. And young people can now say, look, if I focus on a particular area, I'm seeing my peers selling their business for $200 million, I can also follow the same suit. And on the back of that $200 million, in Africa, in the last few years, about $9 billion in venture capital has been raised, right? So I think of government, I don't think of it as either or, that it's only private sector, it's only public sector. It's clear to me it must be a combination, all moving together in the same direction. And when that happens, great things can happen.
Thank you very much. To just stand here and say thank you for taking out your time to attend this August occasion, particularly those who flew in from America, Gambia, and the rest. But I need to say one or two things about this event. This event was put together around January 9th, just about a month ago, by Prof. And when he told me that we're going to have a twin conference, I was wondering, one is handful, two and back to back, but he said, don't worry, we will do it. And today we are here as witnesses to what great determination, and resilience can do. Please, a round of applause for Professor Patrick Toby. We have learned a lot in this short period of time, and I'm sure everybody will take one or two things home. And a lot of minds would have been changed to reset towards entrepreneurship. If no other person, I think I am almost a disciple now. And I'm going to go back and view these sessions at my own time for me to learn more about some of these things. I want to say a very big thank you to our distinguished guests who, within a short period of being invited, some of them were here some minutes to 10 o'clock in the morning, waiting for the program to start. And they held on till we started the program, and they are still here till the end of the program. I say very big thank you to you. And for the faculty, quote and unquote, here, we've been richly blessed, because these are people that don't need, not just those who read in the books. And please, we'll continuously engage you, and at short notices we'll be calling on you to come and give us some of these, because you can't go with this without spreading it all over the country. I say very big thank you, and Dr. Mustafa, for making Nigeria your second home. You will always be welcome. Thank you so much for coming, and I bid everybody safe trip back to your various destinations. Thank you very much. God bless you all too.
As the Biscon Tv show, BOS, the globally acknowledged leading brand in the cutting-edge, inimitable production of groundbreaking events dating back many decades, prepares to celebrate its Silver Jubilee anniversary. It's time to blow our own trumpet resoundingly, stating the qualities that have continued to endear the BOS brand to all our fans across and beyond Nigeria. In the last 25 years, the Biscon Tv show, BOS, which is the longest-running general interest magazine program on television in Nigeria, has covered and broadcasted events of social, economic, corporate, political, and entertainment values every week unfailingly. With iconic events dating back many decades captured for posterity, BOS honors those living and immortalizes the dead everlastingly. The Biscon Tv show, BOS, proudly boasts of being one of the broadcast outfit with the richest library of archives of past events. The Biscon Tv show's awesome archive of iconic events parade the coverage of convocations of universities, coronations of traditional rulers, inaugurations of state governors in Nigeria, the inaugurations of Nigerian presidents, and President Barack Obama of the United States of America. 2010 World Cup in South Africa, covered by the ubiquitous Biscon Tv show, BOS. BOS was also at the inauguration of the Alake of Egbaland 16 years ago, Oba of Benin 8 years ago, Oni of Ife, Ulu of Warri, and many more. As for the birthday, anniversary, and weddings of the high and mighty in the society, the BOS archives is replete with very exciting pan and beyond Nigerian super coverages. As for the festivals like Calabar Carnival, Ujude Oba Festival of the Ijebus, Lishabi Festival of the Egbas of Ogun State, and others, the Biscon Tv show BOS simply is the toast of all. The corporate concerns, the banks, telecommunication companies, and other business concerns have made BOS their prime choice over the years. The newspapers, state governments would rather the almighty Biscon Tv show give the coverage of their awards our inimitable packaging, as exemplified by what we have in the awesome BOS archives. The Biscon Tv show, BOS, is the preferred choice of state governments in the propagation and publicity of their programs to their different constituents in different states, because the Biscon Tv show is the #1 program they've all been watching religiously in the last 25 years. In fact, the Biscon Tv show, BOS, commissioned to provide a comprehensive nationwide campaign program for President Goodluck Jonathan, President Muhammadu Buhari, and President Bola Tinubu, which took the BOS team around the country campaigning for votes for the candidates at the time. The Bisi Olatilo Show, BOS, was also involved in rigorous campaign for Governor Duoye Diri of Bayelsa State, Senator Hope Uzodinma of Imo State, and Governor Gboyega Oyetola of Osun State. Incidentally, these were all clients of BOS from the two different political parties, APC and PDP. Also, in the very rich archives of BOS, with events that span over 25 years, is the one where BOS paid an everlasting honor to immortalize Nigeria's First Lady of all times, Mrs. Stella Obasanjo, who died 19 years ago. The Bisi Olatilo Show, BOS, the first and the best, still remains on the very top of our game.
Certificate racketeering involving the creation, sale or alteration of certificates, degrees or official documents poses immense threats to education, professions and societal trust. This fraudulent practice undermines the value of genuine achievements, jeopardizes the credibility of educational institutions, and poses severe risks to industries relying on authentic credentials. One major consequence of certificate racketeering is the erosion of trust in educational qualifications. The rampant availability of forged certificates devalues authentic accomplishments, compromising the merit-based selection process for employers, academic institutions, and regulatory bodies. This erosion of trust fundamentally undermines the purpose of education, which includes to acknowledge and reward genuine skills, knowledge, and expertise. Moreover, the proliferation of fake certificates poses significant dangers to industries dependent on skilled professionals. Sectors like healthcare, engineering, and finance are directly impacted by qualifications, risking public safety and trusts. Patients might receive substandard care from healthcare practitioners with forged medical degrees, while financial institutions face risks due to unqualified professionals handling sensitive matters. Additionally, individuals obtaining fake certificates unknowingly face dire consequences, investing time, effort, and money in what turns out to be worthless qualifications. This not only leads to personal disappointment, but also exposes them to legal liabilities and professional setbacks.
Here is the breaking news of the moment. Biscon TV, the most exciting 24-hour general interest television station, parading cutting-edge programs in news, sports, politics, business, foreign news, fashion and style, entertainment and lifestyle programs, Biscon movies and more, has been moved to channel 144 on GoTV. Our programs begin daily with Biscon Breakfast Bubble (BBB), featuring newspaper review and interviews on trending issues. Biscon Roundtable is our daily discussion program on essential tips on life and living. Biscon TV broadcasts news 7 times daily from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Biscon TV can be watched in all parts of the country now on GoTV channel 144 and live streaming on Biscon TV on YouTube. Biscon TV live streaming on YouTube is the fastest growing, most watched 24-hour live streaming channel on YouTube. Remember, Biscon TV has been moved from channel 108 to channel 144 on GoTV. Biscon TV, interactive, engaging, and unconventional.
welcome to Newspaper Review today. I'm Adebisi Edegunde. And with me in the studio is
Sarah Piotr.
And together we'll be reviewing the newspapers, and I'll begin with the Vanguard newspaper. The first headline says, Nigeria's sovereign wealth fund grows by 119% to 2.258 trillion naira. Agitation for Yoruba nation laughable, and that's according to DHQ. Over 1,000 students, educators abducted, killed in Nigeria. That's according to UNICEF, and the story is on page 9. Wike triumphs as PDP NEC endorses Damagum-led NWEC, and the story is on page 5. Now, Tinubu's government hasn't borrowed from CBN, says Edo. Ways and means to be pinned down to deal with liquidity at fiscal monetary authorities complementing each other to bring inflation down. Discloses government will borrow less and focus more on domestic resource mobilization, and the story is on page 2. UTME jam to arrest parents seen at CBT centers. APC court holds Kandu J suspension on page 26. Federal government places ex-Kogi Governor Yahaya Bello on watch list as EFCC declares him wanted. Anti-corruption CSOs tackle EFCC over ex-Kogi Governor. Now, federal government will pay 3.2 trillion naira as subsidy if tariff hike is reversed. NERC. Poor production. Oil Minister CDS vow to curb oil thefts in Niger Delta. Now away Lakemfa. The powerful countries using Israel as a hunter's dog also have a duty to put it on a leash so it does not constitute a danger to the society, and that's according to Owe Lakemfa on page 17. And finally, on sport, we have Crystal Palace set eyes on Lukman to beef up squad, and that's on page 29.
And moving on, the Punch. Federal government enforces prices in Abuja supermarkets, plans Lagos but High Court visit. That's on page 2. 7 trillion naira remitted to Federation accounts in 6 months. RMAFC. That's on page 21. Anti-party activities. PDP next silent on Wike. Saraki leads peace panel. That's on page 3. Troops rescue pregnant Chibok girl with 3 children. That's on page 14. And 80 billion naira money laundering. Federal government places Yahaya Bello on watch list. Immigration alerts DSS. Federal government orders border surveillance, asks DSS, NIA, police to prevent ex-governor's escape. EFCC should obey court order restraining ex-governor's arrest. Bello's lawyer insists. That's on page 2. Ogun acquires 25 vans. Mans Lagos Ibadan Expressway with drones. That's on page 14. Lagos Calabar Highway. Federal government panel to pay compensation within 10 days. Page 21. 16 killed in Borno, bus runs over, he swaps explosives. That's on page 7. And lastly, for the Punch, we have Ondo, Ayedatiwa, other APC aspirants battle for 171,922 votes. That's on page 3.
This day. In groundbreaking move, Arise goes live in South Africa, 9 additional countries. Television station now in 54 countries. PDP national chairmanship no matter of life and death for me, Damagum declares. Ribado, not susceptible to insecurity because of sweeping youth illiteracy, says Tinubu gave critical appointments to region to address its challenges. EFCC declares Yahaya Bello wanted as AGF warns fugitive ex-governor. Agency tells court it may engage military to effect his arrest. Fagemi says obstructing justice not allowed. Police withdraw security. Immigration sends signal. Puts him on the watch list, and that's the final story for the Day newspaper.
And the Nation. PDP keeps Damagum as chair till August. NEC tolls peace part. That's on page 4. APC asks police to arrest imposters who suspended Ganduje. That's on page 4. And Ondo 2024, 171,922 eligible to vote in APC primary. Police invites Labour Party candidate Apata, chairman over Uniben violence. That's on page 5. AGF Fagbemi urges Yahaya Bello to surrender.
Immigration puts ex-governor on watch list at borders. I reject charges against me. JAMB orders arrest of parents found at CBT centers. Page 3. Federal lawmakers back April 30. Page 6. Presidency, APC clash with PDP on economy, security. Ruling party dismisses opposition's criticisms. And lastly, for The Nation, 163 writers battle for NLNG's $1,000 literature prize. That's on page 6.
Now to the New Telegraph. Currency devaluation drags Nigeria to Africa's fourth largest economy. RMAFC. Federal government received 7.3 trillion naira revenue in H2 23. Senate sponsored 279 bills in 10 months. Investigation. Kalu leads with 5. Federal High Court restrains word from suspending Ganduje. Court dismisses Obiano's bid to stop EFCC's 4 billion naira fraud case. Aircraft makes turn back over fire indicator light. Kenyan Defense Chief, senior officers die in helicopter crash. Ohanaeze, ex-governors lament neglect of Ezeife's advice to nation to confer posthumous award on ex-Anambra governor. PDP, Damagum survives sack as NEC extends acting tenure. Fixes August-September for leadership change. Damagum has overstayed DOT. Your NEC meeting achieved no purpose, APC tells PDP. Reps reject electricity tariff increase. Eco Electric plans to migrate all customers to bands A and B. UTME. Arrest parents found near exam centers. JAM tells CBT centers. We'll make a position on state police known soon, IGP. Arise News channel goes live in South Africa, Angola, 8 others. Those taking up arms against state will incur a wrath. That's according to the military, and the writer says once the Yoruba nation agitators against action, Makinde demolishes agitators leader's house in Ibadan. New Telegraph's Rotary International District were 9110's best newspaper in humanitarian reporting 2024. As Williams, others shines at events. And for the last story, we have low vitamin D increases aging muscles loss. That's on according to study, and that's on page 26.
And lastly here with me is The Guardian. Living on war front, Borno residents on the edge, tiptoeing on active landmines, IEDs. Between 2016 and February 2023, 2,468 people were injured, including 1,478 civilians, 1,490 including 842 civilians were killed as a result of explosives ordnance. Data, United Nations Mine Action Service, en masse. And over 6,000 illicit weapons recovered nationwide in 3 years. That's on page 28. NCS hands over 1.7 billion naira worth of seized fake drugs to NAFDAC. Page 8. Kano APC accuses presidency of sabotaging Ganduje as ex-governor gets reprieve. That's on page 3. World Bank. Rising inflation, weak earnings push 10 million Nigerians into poverty in 2023. Page 6. PDP NEC retains Damagun, asks Tinubu to rejig economic team. That's on page 8. EFCC declares Bello wanted over alleged 80.2 billion naira fraud. Page 3 also. And Obiano loses bid to stop 4 billion naira fraud trial. Page 7. Police invite Apata Edo, Labour Party chairman, over Uniben violence shooting. That's on page 8.
And lastly, for today, we have the Daily Sun newspaper, and I'll begin with the first headline. Kanu. World Igbo Congress advocates political solution. DFQ exposes terrorist, sponsors deadly plot, says they are planning to blackmail military. Reveals troops kill 192 terrorists, arrest 341, rescues 62 hostages in 2 weeks. DMO puts Nigeria's debt at 97 trillion naira. No respite for secondaries, Omehia Opara, as court fails to vacate order barring them from PDP meetings. Damagum has overstayed as acting chairman BOT chair. Saraki heads reconciliation committee. Alleged 4 billion naira fraud. You have case to answer, court tells Obiano, ex-Anambra governor. Domestic flight prices plunged to 68,000 naira amid Q1 passenger slump. Jonathan, dignitaries praise late ex-lawmaker Cairo Jogo. Court halts Ganduje suspension orders return to status quo. Now, federal government backs EFCC on action against Bello. Submit yourself to EFCC, Fagemi tells ex-governor. Anti-graft agency declares him wanted. Rush to arrest Bello despite pending appeal. Court hearing suggests political persecution. CSOs. And for the final story, Abiodun donates patrol vehicle to police Ogun most peaceful state. And that's according to IGP, and that's on page 5. And yes, we've come to the end of paper review for today. Thank you for joining us.
As the BC Olatilo Show, BOS, the globally acknowledged leading brand in the production of cutting-edge, inimitable, and groundbreaking events dating back many decades, prepares to celebrate its Silver Jubilee 25 years anniversary, it's time to blow our trumpet resoundingly, stating the qualities that have continued to endear the BOS brand to all our fans across and beyond Nigeria. In the last 25 years, the BC Olatilo Show, BOS, the longest-running general interest magazine program on television in Nigeria, has covered and broadcast events of social, economic, corporate, political, and entertainment values every week unfailingly. With iconic events dating back many decades captured for posterity, BOS honors those living and immortalizes the dead everlastingly. The BC Olatilo Show, BOS, proudly boasts of being one of the broadcast outfits with the richest library of archives of past events. The BC Olatilo Show, BOS, awesome archive of iconic events, parade the coverage of convocations of universities, coronation of traditional rulers, inauguration of state governors in Nigeria, the inauguration of Nigerian President and President Barack Obama of United States of America in 2010, World Cup in South Africa, covered by ubiquitous the BC Olatilo Show, BOS. BOS was also at the inauguration of the Alake of Egbaland 16 years ago, Oba of Benin 8 years ago, Oni of Ife, Olu of Wari, and many more. As for the birthday, anniversary, and weddings of the high and the mighty in the society, the BOS archives is replete with very exciting pan and beyond